Um, this meeting is being recorded, as I've just been notified. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get into a little bit about me and what I do, and a little bit about PPA. But I know, how many PPA members do we have? I mean, I know some of you have your cameras on or whatever, but we have some, right? So good. So we have some that are not. So that's awesome. Because I have a couple of new things about the benefits from PPA that I can share with you. But I won't spend a lot of time on that because I know you guys want to hear about the headshot stuff. So let me start sharing my screen. And let's see, share sound optimize. So what I'm gonna do tonight, let's see, somebody's trying to get in. Can you let that person in? Because it's underneath my controls here. Okay, perfect. All right, can somebody just give me, because I can't see you anymore, can somebody just tell me if they can see my screen?
We can
Yeah,
see.
we're good.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. You guys see I have my brother's big face on the screen. That should be what you see.
All right.
Yeah, that's my little brother. He's 14 months younger than me, and he gets to model for me sometimes when I'm doing projects. So this program is called Headshots Art for Everyone: Fast and Sellable Studio Lighting and Workflow. Probably about 5 years-ish ago, that's a lie. Probably, 7 or 8 years ago, I started shooting headshots, and I started out with my business primarily being a family photography business, and I started expanding into headshots because some of the families were asking me if I did it, and I was like, well, I mean, sure, it's just a picture of your head. I can do that. So I expanded into that, and I quickly became aware of this is a market that is growing rapidly as the public's needs have become more digital. Headshots have become much more of a need for pretty much everyone. Pretty much everyone needs a headshot at this point, and especially during COVID, and when people started redoing their websites and sitting down and updating their LinkedIn profiles and getting onto Zoom and needing the headshot business for me, despite the pandemic, really became very busy. In fact, last year was my the most sales that I had because I was not doing as much family photography and group photography. It was mostly commercial and headshot work. So I thought that this is something worth sharing. Because if you're not adding this as a service that you're doing in your studio, I think you're doing yourself a disservice because it is quite easy to execute and very lucrative. So that being said, let me get into the next slide. So I'll get this stuff out of the way first. So as you said, I have a podcast with my friend Mary Taylor, who is the current PPA president. Also just an all-around cool lady and an excellent business mind. And so Mary and I have a podcast together called Get Your Shoot Together. And we've been doing it for about 2 years. And our podcast focuses primarily on the business of photography. And as a lot of you have probably picked up on by now, if you've been in the business for any amount of time, this photography kind of becomes a lifestyle. So it's about the lifestyle, it's about the business of, and then we do talk about shooting and technical. If I were honest, I am the artsy fartsy technical. I want to do a creative project person. Mary is the total business minded person that's like, right, you do your fun projects, but how is that going to make you money? So we keep each other really balanced, and we have fun doing it. And let's see. Come on, clickers. There we go. And if you want to find me on social media, you can do so at Instagram at Shakira. Yes, my name is actually Shakira. It's just spelled differently than the singer. I swear I was named that before she was, but then I found out she was older than me. So, it's at SHEKIRA on Instagram and on Twitter. And then you can like me as Kira Derryberry Photography on Facebook. Okay, let's see. All right, so just a little bit about me. These are my people. This is my daughter, Lucy. She just graduated 5th grade today. So we're all very excited for her. That's my husband, Kevin. And during the pandemic, I very much became a cat person. So these are my cats that I take a lot of pictures of at the house. So the top one is Dan and the bottom one is Sam. And these are the people that help me keep my world spinning here in Tallahassee, Florida. You also heard that I am on the board of directors for PPA. So I have been, this is now I'm in my 5th year as a member of the board of directors for PPA. It's a PPA, if you're not aware, is the second oldest nonprofit professional organization in the country. So we have been around over 150 years. Do not ask me what the oldest one is, because I do not know. But I do know that little nugget of information. As far as reasons to join PPA, I joined PPA honestly for the insurance way back when I got started. And what I found out very quickly is not only, the insurance, which actually is great. And if you wouldn't mind me breaking away from this, I wanted to tell you guys something about it. I joined because of the photo care insurance. So when I was a new business owner, and I had very little equipment, but I didn't really know what I was getting into with overhead and things like that. I joined because I found out that PPA offered photo care insurance. So I think we were getting at the time something like $10,000 worth of equipment insurance, which was a good enough reason for me to join and maybe never do anything else with PPA. Since then, of course, I found community. I have advanced myself. I've become such a better photographer by way of the certification program and through image competition. And I'm now a certified judge for the International Photographic Competition. And so I have grown leaps and bounds as a artist and as a photographer and as a business owner. And I started just because I needed some insurance. So I wanted to tell you guys one quick thing about the insurance. We've just made some new changes to the photo care insurance for the better. So now you get the full replacement value of anything stolen or damaged in your equipment with a $350 flat deductible. And before, you may remember, it was a partial, like the value replacement instead of full replacement value. So that is a big enhancement for our insurance that comes for all members without any extra money. And equipment repairs, which is a $50 flat deductible. So if you decide you don't want to get a replacement for the lens you broke, you could just get it repaired and have a $50 flat deductible. And then now you're getting, instead of 10, you're getting up to $15,000 in coverage. So PhotoCare is an amazing benefit to our members. Remember that we are a nonprofit and that every bit of money that you put into the organization really does go back into things like this that we can offer our membership when we can buy things like this in bulk. The other thing that was brought up to me that I might want to mention to you guys, it's a great tool, is the Square One tool. So if you're not familiar with this, and I believe you do need to be a member to get to this page, but I might be wrong about that. It is, I would consider, a pretty big member benefit. Essentially, if you want to find out what it is, how many sessions a year you need to shoot to make X amount of money, this tool is going to tell you how to do that. So you can punch in here that you want your net income to be, I want to take home $100,000 this year. And then you can punch in all the rest of this information and it'll spit out results for you to tell you exactly what your average sales are going to need to be, how many sessions you're going to need to shoot, and of what, especially if you've diversified your specialties, like you do wedding, but you also do seniors, and you also do, pets. You can put all that information in, and it will give you a really good base number to kind of like get in your head how you can plan for your year. So it's a really valuable tool. And I think a lot of people don't know that it's there, and it's been there for a while. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, I highly recommend that you do. All right, now back to our other scheduled programming that we were doing. Hang on one second, let me pull up Keynote again. All right. Okay, so tonight's presentation is going to be a bit of a hybrid because this is a demo presentation. So normally if I could come and do this in person, then I would have all of my gear out and I would have a model and I would be showing you guys a lot of this stuff. So what I've done is I have pre-recorded a bit of the demo and pre-recorded some of the videos that I want to show you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through the gear and talk through a few things that I do. Then I'm going to show you some demo, and then I'll talk some more, and then I'm going to show you some demo. And then in between, when we take these little demo breaks, I'd love to get any questions that you might have. But first off, I thought I might show you the space, my studio space. So I'm in Tallahassee, Florida. I have a brick and mortar studio that is located in the Midtown area. It's very convenient to a lot of professionals in town. So if you work downtown, or if you work on FSU's campus, or if you work in the Midtown area, I have so many realtors, lawyers, medical professionals, politicians because we are the capital. So I'm pretty centrally located. So if anyone needs to pop in and get a headshot, it's very easy to do. The space is about, I think it's like just under 1,900 square feet. So what you're going to see here is a promotional video just showing off the studio and some of the product line that I have. But I'm showing you this so that you can kind of get a feel for my space when you see it. So I'm going to hit play. Okay, so you can see that this particular ad that I created, and I'm not a video person, so Animoto is what I created this with, and it's kind of like creating advertising videos, marketing pieces with the bumper rails up and bowling. Like it's really hard to mess it up. So even if you're taking iPhone videos and things like that to make your marketing pieces, and they don't sponsor me or anything like that, I just find it to be a very useful tool for people like me who are not video minded. So this piece was marketed to advertise my family portrait photography, obviously. And you can see that the other side of my business focuses on large statement piece artwork. So the sales room is decorated to show off those statement pieces. I sell a lot of metal, large canvases, and fine art frame pieces. White House Custom Color is my vendor for almost everything except for my folio boxes, which I do get from 3XM Studios. So if you guys are familiar with Ronan Ryle and that company out of Ireland, they make a beautiful, beautiful product. So again, not sponsored by any of those people. I just like to share things that I think are really awesome and that have good customer service. So that's the other side of the business. This is a little bit of I just, wanted to make a point here by showing this image. So whatever you show is what people will come to you for. So the goal for me with my family portrait photography is to be known for these large statement pieces. So whenever I show my own home, which this is my dad and my cat again. But whenever I show something on social media of my own home, I try and make sure that I'm also showing that I decorate my house with statement pieces and artwork, and that the artwork reflects the type of artwork that I could potentially provide for a client. So when you're thinking about your social media presence, and like I said, tonight I'm going to dabble in a little bit of everything for you guys, but when you're thinking about your social media presence, be sure that you're showing what it is you want to sell. So if I'm not showing family portrait photography, I am showing, headshot and commercial photography. And that tends to be whatever I focus on is what I tend to book. Okay, so moving on. So here is the space from a different angle. So this is the studio space or the camera room. You can see here that I have a lot of, I think that's 15 feet to the door there. And then you see this big double doorway that's on the camera right side here. I can shoot all the way to the back of the sales room. So I can get really far back, which comes in very handy when I'm doing large, full length composite work. I can get a long lens in there. So it's nice and beneficial to have like all that extra space to be able to shoot. The space right here, you see, I've got full set of front windows, which in my mind, I thought I was going to be using a lot of natural light for some of the stuff. It's like, oh, how nice it'll be to be able to use natural light. But I got to be honest with you, I just never do it anymore. I'm completely studio strobe driven and and it's just, I think I'm just a control freak. Once I got, an understanding of that a long time ago, it was really hard for me to go back. So you can see I have a lot of gadgets. I've got a roller system over here on the left side. And you may also notice that the studio is painted completely white. And there's a lot of different schools of thought about what you should paint your studio. A lot of photographers paint their studio very dark so that they can have, a lot of control over the light. I like bouncing light around, and I utilize bounce flash quite a bit. You can even see here on this image here, I'm using a pretty large scrim, and the light stand that's behind it is for this particular shoot, bouncing light back onto the wall and back through the scrim to kind of give me like some double diffusion there and give me a very almost natural looking light. for these particular images. But you'll notice in some of the work that I'm going to show you that I'm a minimalist. So everything is very neutral, very clean. That's part of my brand. I shoot high key, I shoot low key, with like grays and, you know, painted canvas, sometimes with black, sometimes with like a fashion gray. But for the most part, you know, when I'm shooting with color, it has a very specific purpose, like it's for a magazine cover, or it's for an actor or an actress, where I'm trying to match color to be a little bit more cinematic and vibrant for them. But I can also make a lot of colors with these neutral tones, and I'm going to show you how I do that in just a minute. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the gear. And guys, I can't see your smiling faces, which makes these presentations so hard because my whole screen is taken up by my presentation. So if you do have a question, I can hear you. Or if somebody's chatting a question, if somebody wants to be in charge with asking me those at some point, that would be awesome, because I just don't have it on my screen.
I'll watch the chat for you, or if somebody wants to unmute themselves and jump in, that's totally fine.
That's okay.
But you're doing great. We're loving it.
Okay, good. Well, you know, it's funny because I feel like I'm just talking into my closet. So
I'll come in and say like, "Hi, Kira, you're doing great."
oh, thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
Okay.
Okay. So, I'll get into gear unless anybody has any questions about the space before I move on to my little gear segment. You guys good?
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Sorry, it's Jules. Those huge, the huge prints that you do,
Yeah.
that you do a lot of metal and some canvas. I really don't do canvas, but I'm wondering, when the prints are that big, and just out of curiosity, how big are they? And then is it better that they're canvas? Is that much lighter than a metal when it's that size?
Well, so I do both canvas and metal. I can get them both that size. So those are all 40 by 60s that you saw. And that is the largest size that you can get without doing a custom size through White House Custom Color. And although I have done a larger size than that with a canvas before, you know, I have two different product lines for that. So I call the metals, I call those a high impact metal. And I usually encourage my clients who do the high key black and white work with me. I steer them towards that product. So the metal is really designed for that. And then the canvases that I do are more designed for my color work. You know, or big family portraits that show off a lot of like, they want to really show off their the color palette that we've chosen for the shoot. But neither one really has a difference as far as like one's lighter than the other. I mean, they both hang, you know, we professionally install all of these in our clients' homes, and you know, anything that size, we don't trust them to get it done themselves. So on the back of the metals, I do the inset frame. So that they're real sturdy and they don't bow or anything like that. And on the canvases, I do a float frame. So those are hanging on wire on the back. So does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. I just had never seen a metal that big, and I was wondering if it just got super heavy.
Yeah, it's actually not that heavy. I mean, it's up there, but it's, you know, it's sheet metal. So the back of it is not solid, you know, it's just got this sort of inset metal frame that goes on the back, and it really doesn't add to the weight all that much. And really it just kind of stabilizes it so it doesn't get bent, you know, or over time start to bend against the screws in it.
Thank you. Good to know.
Yep. Okay, we good? I'm going to move on. All right, so my gear. So for those of you who are wondering, I'm shooting with the Z7 Nikon. You know, I recently upgraded to mirrorless, like a lot of us have. And I had a choice, you know, to make, because I've been shooting Nikon for my whole, I mean, since I was 14 years old. So making a change just seemed absurd to try and change to another brand. And while I considered going into Sony, strongly considered going into Sony, when at the end of the day, changing out everything, you know, from lenses to my backup camera system to everything, it just seemed like a no-brainer just to stick with the Z7, and I'm very happy with it, and I'm using it every day now, and I'm really enjoying it. So I've got the Z7, and one of my lenses my go-to lenses for headshots is an 85 millimeter, you know, fixed focus prime lens. I love that one. But probably lately, my most used lenses are going to be my Sigma 24-105 f4 art lens, which looks hilarious to me as I read it because it looks like it says fart lens, but it is an f4 art lens. And um, I have of course, the Nikkor 70-200 2.8 lenses, and I am strongly considering moving up to those Z mount lenses, which are the lenses made for the mirrorless. But for right now, I'm shooting everything on the FTZ adapter. Also, if anyone notices, I have a lisp because I have Invisalign. so,
You're so funny with the Invisalign because you always mention it, but I don't even notice
it's
it.
awful. All I can hear is myself going, I have an FTC Invisalign.
Well, just think about how pretty and straight and beautiful.
I know,
They already
right?
are pretty and straight and beautiful, but they're going to be even better.
It's going to be great. It's going to be so worth it. So worth it. It's only till August, I hope. So, we can do anything for 6 months, right? Okay. So, moving on. So I shoot with Godox. In the studio, I am outfitting everything with, I have two 8400 Pros. I have two 8600 BMs. I have I have probably 4 or 5 8200 Pros that I take on location. So I tried to make it so when because I do so much commercial work on location and in the studio, I tried to make it so I have a go bag that is light and easy to take on location and doesn't force me to take apart my whole studio to do it. So the 8400 Pros and the 8600 BMs, they stay primarily in the studio unless I'm going to be doing some outdoor work where I need that much power, like if I need to overpower the sun, or if I really need that TTL capability that the 8400 Pro has. The 8200 Pros, though, are great and give me much more power than speed lights, and I can outfit them, with the bulb or the I'm going to botch this one, but the Fresnel head. I always get that wrong. But I can outfit them with either and get different effects and take a couple of collapsible soft boxes and be very happy on location with a very light bag, or a much lighter bag than carrying out all these big strobes on location. So if you do get into the commercial work, and I hope that you will, if you aren't already, you should consider a commercial go-to bag that just makes your life a lot easier to go on location with, because my back hurts after a long gig on site. I do get all my gear from Michael Mowbray with MoLight. If you guys have ever dealt with him, he has excellent customer service, and he is a Godox dealer. And he's never steered me wrong. I switched my studio out from Paul C. Buff in 2020, in the beginning of 2020, and I called him up and I said, "Here's everything I have. I need equivalents." And he gave me not only did he give me equivalents, but he solved a lot of problems I was having, especially with being able to have a wireless studio. So I am able now, because I have the choice on these, to either do the lithium ion battery pack on these so that they're wireless, or if I need to charge those and I didn't remember to charge them, I can plug these in and it works great. So it made the studio a lot cleaner with not having to have all these cables all over the floor, especially when we have families in the studio. It's really nice to not have cables on the floor. So I highly recommend a wireless option if you are working with kids. Okay, and as far as modifiers go, I have this one's called, now these are specific from this one is anyway, the GoMo Snap MoLight softbox here, the 48-inch. That one is specifically something that Michael sells with MoLight, but any large light box will work, softbox will work for me. I like a very soft light. I like stuff that I can wrap light around large groups, and I like stuff that I can imitate natural light with if I need to. So I have a 48, and then I also have, not listed here, a 7-foot PLM with diffusion that I use quite a bit as well. In the video that I'm going to show you guys, I'll be using some of this gear so you can kind of see it in action. There's that scrim that we showed you in the previous photo, and this one is by Newer, and it is about 6.5 feet. roughly. And it's been really handy. It's a real beast to try and fold back up. Like a lot of my collapsibles, I've never had trouble folding collapsibles, but God help me, I don't want to try and fold that thing up ever again. So it's just hanging in the studio. I'm not taking it on location ever. But if you did need to take it on location, there is a way to fight it into submission and get it folded up. And then it works great as a scrim to diffuse the sun or anything else that you need to use it for too. And then V flats are awesome, and you can certainly make V flats, but this has just been very convenient. There's a company called V Flat World that's making these now, and they fold into a quarter size, so or half size, I guess. No, quarter, because if you had it all folded out, folds down into one square, and it has a little carrying case, and you can put that in your car and take it on location and fold it up. So it's been nice if you need portable V flats, you can take it around. And I'm using V flats now daily in the studio. And it kind of, we used to buy like a big pallet of this material, this foam core, and then make it and share it among all the photographer friends in the community. But I wasn't able to move them around like this. And so these are cool because you can use them as tables. I've made a bunch of tabletops, fake tabletops with these, and they work great. So recommend those for shooting in the studio or on location. Let's see, come on. All right, and then another thing I want to mention is I am a Tether Tools Pro, and I started shooting everything tethered in the studio. So every client that comes through the studio, you'll see I am shooting directly into my laptop here so that it streamlines the sales process, and it streamlines the confidence process as well. I find with headshot photography that a lot of people kind of treat it like the dentist, like they know they need a headshot. Their boss told them they need a headshot, or they're on the job market and they need a headshot, but they don't really want to get one. And so the minute they walk in, they're like, oh, I hate getting my picture taken. I don't know how many times a week I hear I hate getting my picture taken. And it kind of like takes the air out of your sails, like, you hear it all that often. But I found that when you light things correctly, so that they look great out of camera, so that you're not having to do a lot of correcting with retouching after the fact. And then the client is able to see that they look good and that they're lit well, and that you've lit them for the shape of their face and the style that they're asking for. It invokes a lot of confidence between you and the client very early on. It also eliminates things like you've gone through a whole shoot and you didn't realize that they thought their hair was flat because you've never met them before and you didn't think their hair was flat. But then now you've done the whole shoot, and now you're trying to sell them pictures, and they're like, oh my God, my hair, why didn't you tell me my hair was so flat? Well, if we're shooting tethered and they see a couple images come through and they go, oh gosh, my hair is flat. Well, let's go fix that, right? So that we don't have to do this shoot over again. So that gives us another opportunity to correct something that you, the photographer, may not have noticed about themselves, because, frankly, everybody is their own worst critic. And a lot of people find things wrong with their face that you just didn't even notice. So it's nice to be able to build that confidence and that trust with them very early on. So I'm doing everything tethered, and I'm doing it wired with the cable and not the Air Direct, although the Air Direct is a great product. I just found that, like, for my own stopping myself from having a lot of user error when I get rushed, or when I'm in a hurry, I just found the cable works for me every single time, and I don't have to worry about, is there interference causing any problems with the Wi-Fi or anything like that. I don't need Wi-Fi to do the cable, So that's pretty much why I use that. Here's a little shot of the sales room, so you can see directly into the sales room from the camera room. So I would have my back to the TV here, and I would be photographing the client, and then the client can actually look through the studio, the camera room door, and actually see their image up there, or they can see it on the computer screen as we move forward. But I've just found that it's really handy, especially when we're doing same day sales with our headshot sessions. So as soon as I'm done photographing a client, I don't have to waste any time downloading a card, because everything is already on the computer. So I just take them directly into the sales room here, sit them down on the couch, give them a bottle of water, and then we're off to the races selecting their images, and I can get all that done pretty much in an hour. So hopefully we'll have some time where I can explain some more about that later on in the program. If you guys are interested in some of the items that I mentioned, I did set up a little link here so that you can, it's some of the items, I'm trying to get it updated. with all of the things that I carry, because I get asked a lot about what it is I use. And then I'm always like sending links to people over Messenger. So I'm trying to put it all in one space for you. So if you want that, that is there, and just screenshot that if you need it. All right, are we ready? I'm gonna move forward, and if you need it later, I'll bring it back up. Okay, so I'm about to get into the little demo videos. And before I do that, can I pause and ask if there's any questions or comments about this first portion regarding the studio, the gear that I'm using, why I'm doing something a certain way? Anything you got?
Anyone?
Bueller.
Bueller?
All right, well, good.
We do have one question from Therese. She's
Okay.
asking, what software do you use with the Tether?
Oh yeah, sure. So I'm going to disappoint everyone and tell you that I use Lightroom with it. But the more popular answer is Capture One. And I don't have any issues with Lightroom typically, tethering into Lightroom, although a lot of people do. So I think that's why it's kind of the less popular option. Capture One also, I'll admit, I think handles color a lot better. I just think it's kind of the thing where I tried to switch over to Capture One, and I may give it another shot because I know it really does handle color, I think, so much better than Lightroom does. But I am so fast with Lightroom, and like I'm hopefully going to show you later, I do my sales through Lightroom as well, and I'm very, very fast with it. So it's been a little hard for me to pick up the same speed with Capture One, but I'll get there if I can commit to it. But yeah, that's pretty much why I'm using Lightroom. It's because it's an old habit. And it's part of my workflow.
If I can say, Capture One is just so heavy with, it's like having Photoshop and tethering in one. And if you don't use that element of it, it just seems really bulky to me. I've been using it for about 1.5 years, and I'm still so frustrated with it and the tethering, and yet I have to do it all the time. And it's just, oh, it drives me nuts.
I do find it to be a little clunky, but I can't figure out if that's just because I'm so used to the Lightroom interface. It does have an interface that looks a lot like Lightroom.
Mm-hmm.
That you can switch it over to in the workspace area for it. I think it's
Right.
like, I forget what it's called, like transition, or it's called something like that. But it does look more like Lightroom, and it functions a little more like Lightroom, but I agree. But, also it has a lot more tools that are stronger. They do more for you retouching wise, and being able to attack specific color areas and skin tones and things like that. It's got a lot more bells and whistles, but
Well, that was my point, actually. I just feel like I wish they would just offer a standalone tether, like just sell that portion of it. Because I don't do any of that bells and whistles stuff within that program. So it'd be so nice just to let them just, here's what you tether into, and then ship it off wherever you want to go.
Well, then just tether into Lightroom because it works fine.
Oh, I've had problems with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It depends on what your camera brand that you're with is.
Right.
But okay. All right. Well, yeah, Capture One's great. And I think if it's the kind of thing where you just got to commit to getting really good with it, okay, I am going to go ahead. So I'm going to hit play on this. I'll just be quiet while this goes. But this is going to go through some of my favorite minimalistic headshot session shoot that I use for women. And then in a little bit, we're going to show what I do for some guys too. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. First of all, can you hear it? All right, now I'm going to go through some of my favorite setups for headshots in the studio. And I thought it might be a good idea to show you different ways that I light women, and then a couple of tricks that I do to light men. And to start here, I'm going to show you a classic clamshell lighting using that Octabox, and it's going to be a 3-light setup. Now you may see in this shot that you can see the scrim in the background. Just know that we don't have that turned on. In fact, here you can see the lighting setup. We've got the Octabox over the top, and then we've got a V-flat folded in half, and in the diagram here, it can, any white panel will do here. You can have a white reflector, white piece of styrofoam. A V-flat works great. There's lots of reflector options. One of those 5-in-1 foldables, that's a great option as well. But I like the white because it what I'm trying to create here is a very soft, pleasing, natural looking clamshell light that's got a little bit of punch, but not too much. Now we've also got the background lights on. So you can see this is a 3-light setup with a fill reflector underneath her face. And this is what we're getting with that shot. Now this particular type with the big octabox and the big panel underneath, that's going to give us that really soft light. Fill in a lot of the shadows under the eyes, fill in a lot of the shadows under the neck, and just give kind of a soft, pleasing, almost natural looking light. Now, if I had overexposed it a little bit, I think it would have looked even more like natural light, but I kind of like this sort of, you know, dead on exposure that we've got going down here. Nice, clean spectral highlights, easy to work with for retouching. Not a lot of shadows, right? Now, shadows create contours for the face, but in this case, her face type can really handle it. If we had a lot of shadows on her face type, we would be slimming her face even more, and she's got really beautiful slim features and big cheekbones. So I think I just want to accentuate that with that really filled clamshell lighting. Now, what happens when we take that panel away? So without the panel, you can see that she has much darker circles under her eyes and everywhere where her face sort of protrudes out. So under her nose, under her cheekbones, under her jawline, everything is sort of darker. Now this look isn't necessarily a bad look, but when you look at what it looks like with the panel, this is with the panel underneath, you see her face just sort of lights up. It gives it that glowy, brightened look. Fills in. Now she's still, you know, I would still retouch her at this point, but you know, I have much less of a distance to travel with the retouching versus this one. You know, this one I might need to lighten under the eyes more. This one I might need to, you know, draw up the shadows a little bit more to fill it in. Here, it's already easy, ready to go, easy retouch for me. So now, with guys that we'll look at later, we have a guy that we're going to photograph, and I'll show you with guys, you know, this sort of look might not be all that bad, but for me, I prefer this look for the particular goal that we're going for. I'm going to show you guys a trick, especially if you are budget minded. Now, I have been photographing everything on a white background so far. But if I wanted to get a medium gray or even darker gray background, all I have to do, obviously, is turn off the lights that are hitting the background. That seems fairly obvious. But with this clamshell lighting setup where I have the octabox parallel to the floor right over the subject here, right in front of the subject, that means that none of that light from the octabox is hitting the background. So if I'm able to use one light, then I am able to get a medium gray background. Now, this has a lot to do with how much space you have. So you can see in my studio, I have about 10 feet, and the subject is about, I'm gonna guess, she's about 5 feet in front of the background, maybe 6. Now, if she were right up against the wall, this is not achievable because the light from the octabox would hit the background. But since I have some distance from her, I'm able to get a medium gray background. Now, if I doubled that distance, I'd be able to get a very dark background, almost black background. So you can achieve different looks with one solid white background and create a variety of looks for your clients when they come in for their headshots. Okay, control freaks, I hear you. I hear you complaining out there. You don't want to rely just on the light fall off and the distance of the subject to the background. You want to have complete and total control. I get that. Here's how to do that. Just turn your background lights back on and adjust the power. Now, the first setup I showed you was a 3-light setup, clamshell with a fill reflector. If we just cut those background lights half power, then we will have a gray background. If you cut the background lights quarter power, then you will have a very light gray background. If you cut the background lights 3/4 power, then you will have a darker gray background. This does not mean that you need to move the subject around. This is the same distance from the background as the first setup I showed you. And this is something where you have a lot more control. So if you have access to the 3 lights, that is probably going to be your best bet to have as much control as possible. However, if you don't have access to the 3 lights and you're using a 1 or 2 light setup or a 1 light with a fill like we showed you, then you're just going to need to move your subject back and forth from a distance from the background to adjust the brightness of that background shade. Now, the last setup that I want to show you with this model, at least, is one that's a little bit different. If you want to create something that looks a bit more like window light, like natural light, I know that's a lot of times the preference of some photographers who are kind of straddling the line between being an all natural light photographer and getting into studio lighting, you want to have that same style and quality to your work that you have when you're on location, when you go into the studio. I have just the trick. You may have noticed in the studio where I am shooting with this model, and there's a big gigantic scrim. That thing is about 6.5 feet tall. And what I like to do, and I'm going to take you here to this lighting diagram, what I like to do is take one of my monolights and bounce flash, shooting right into the wall. I have a white wall right here. I take that light, I bounce flash that light directly into the wall. It bounces the light from the wall back out and then through that diffusion, through that scrim. And what that does is it creates a very soft double diffused light, similar, and it's very broad. So it's very similar to what you would see with natural light, with the softness of window light coming through. Now let me show you an image, a couple of images that we created with that. This one was using just the scrim only. So only the scrim as the main light, that bounce flash hitting the wall back through the scrim, and it gives a pleasing light on her face. It fills in a lot of the shadows. Again, it's very soft. But one thing that I don't love about this look, and in this particular shot that we got of her, is that it's a little bit almost like split lighting, where it's broad on this side of the face and then it goes directly off to shadow. Now, because it's so soft, that shadow is almost nothing, right? And it's very similar to what she might look like sitting next to a window. But what if we added a little more punch? So this is where I bring that octabox back in and I swing it back over my subject, just like we did before in the clamshell look. And I add just a little more punch to this situation. Now, all that octabox did was give me more fill light. So we still have the scrim as our main light, but the softbox on top, the octabox on top, is just filling in those shadows. It's still extremely soft light. You can see there's no hard shadows anywhere on the image. Very pleasing, natural looking light. And when you compare it to the one before, you know, this one's fine. This one is good. I just feel like this one's a little bit more sophisticated, right? We don't notice that transition of the light to dark over the side of the face. It's much more like beauty lighting that you would normally see, and it's much more, you know, it's flattering to her face. Again, this is fine, but I feel like when you see this one, you go, oh, okay, that looks better. All right, so I'm going to stop real quick because I'm going to move into mixing in some variables, the second part of this little piece, but are you guys good? I just want to keep checking in because I can't see you.
Yeah, I think, does anyone have a question? I'm looking at the chat here, or chime in if anyone has questions about the lighting setups, or anyone.
I know that what we're showing too is, you know, it's like, oh yeah, well, so she's just with a white background or whatever, but like this is like bread and butter, what I'm doing every single day. I walk into the studio, I turn this stuff on, and I'm able to bang out so many different headshot looks in one day for various different clients, and then get them done and get their order session done and make that money like at the end of it. And it comes from having a very simple, clean background setup. And then so this next part, I'm going to show you how to add some variables to make it a little more fun, a little more punchy with some different colors. But I know that
formula, and you do the same. I mean, basically, it's the same formula. So you don't have to worry about messing with the lights. You just already know what your go-to is.
Yeah, it makes it trust me, I fought against this for a long time because I really like playing with lights. Like I really like playing with lights. But I found that this kind of just flattering look that I'm doing for a lot of different clients, and you know, and I'll do your typical, you know, Rembrandt or loop lighting or anything like that for depending on like if it's an executive or whatever. But having a formula, like you said, ready and available makes the shooting part very fast, and the lets us focus on the sales part and doing some add-on sales. Okay, so I'm going to dive back into this next section. I have to kind of scrub ahead to get there, but let me get there real quick. Hang on. Play. Let me fast forward it again. Sorry, guys. I should have just cut this video in half. Okay. He looks tired, doesn't he? All right, now let's take what we've learned and change out some of the variables. The first one being the background. This whole time we've been working on a white background, and I'm showing you different ways that you can adjust the light to make the white background different shades, different tones. Now what we want to do, let's change out that white background to something that doesn't reflect light as well. In this case, I'm changing it out to a darker gray painted canvas background. Now that's going to absorb light completely differently, obviously, than white paper. It's going to take a lot more light to light it up. It's not going to be reflective like white paper, and it's going to give us a very different look. So I changed out our model as well to a guy. This happens to be my brother Ian. Now Ian is going to sit in for a few of the lighting scenarios that we have already learned. So let's start with the ones, let's work backwards, I guess. So I showed you where you're using a scrim only. So when we use the scrim only on Ian and we use that darker gray background, well, you say it doesn't look super dark on the background, right? It actually looks kind of a medium tone gray. Now that's because the scrim is so large and it's spreading that light out again. So it's spreading that light and it's flowing past him and hitting the background. Now in the second image here, I've added in something we've already learned as well, the scrim plus the octabox. Now when we add the octabox in, you see that shadow side of the face really fills in, much more even lighting, not a huge change to the background. And then the last thing I want to show you right now is we're going to have the octabox only. So now this is very different than our octabox only situation when we had a white paper background. Now that we're using a darker gray canvas background, when we go octabox only, well, the background goes almost totally black. And Ian has black hair with some gray mixed in, and while we can sort of see that black hair, parts of it are starting to blend in with the black background. How do you remedy that? I mean, you have to be able to separate him off the background a little bit, otherwise it doesn't look as three-dimensional as it could look. The easiest way to do it is to repurpose those lights that we were using as background lights, and now we're going to change them and use them for other purposes. We are going to separate him from the background by adding this 24-inch collapsible beauty dish that I have and making it into a hair light. You can use any sort, like a strip box would be great, or any sort of small soft box would be awesome. I recommend that you're able to put a grid on the front of it. Now that grid is going to narrow the beam of light down so that the light that we're shining towards the back of him doesn't spill all over the place. It just takes that wideness of the beam and then narrows it down so it points directly at the back of his head and shoulders, because I just want the light to gently light up the back top of his head and his shoulders to separate him from the background. And if it was spilling anywhere else, I think we would lose some of that drama. You can see the difference right here, especially on the shoulders. On the left side, we have, no highlight. On the right, we have a little bit of highlight that I think adds a roundness and dimension to his shoulders. Otherwise, we want him to look three-dimensional. And so these are the things that we add to kind of create that shape. And you can see that his hair is lit up and clearly separated from the black background. It's super easy to overpower that light and make that light too strong, and I like it to be very subtle. If it's too strong, then it kind of looks like he's got like that superhero edge glow, and if that's what you're going for, then that's awesome. But in my case, all I want to do is create dimension. So when you're setting this up, what I recommend doing is, instead of turning all your lights on at once, start from the back forward, turn your main light off, and just light the hair light up and see where the hair light is hitting him. He should be in silhouette when you try that. See where the hair light is hitting him and just adjust your power to where it's just enough to highlight him, and then add your main light. All right, I want to leave you with one final really cool, versatile trick. So I showed you earlier how to make different shades with your white background by adjusting your lighting. Now I'm going to show you how you can color a gray background, any color you like, to match your model's clothing. I told you earlier that I'm pretty minimalistic, I think. The studio is made up of whites and grays, and my backgrounds sort of reflect that. And so while I have some backgrounds that have different textures, for the most part, what I carry in the studio are black, white, and gray. So when a customer comes in and they have a very vibrant color, or monochromatic color really speaks to me when I see them, I have a way that I can create different color backgrounds for them very, very easily. I purchased a variety of gel packs for my lights. And so those two background lights that we talked about before, well, now I've repurposed one to be the hair light, and now I'm going to take the other one and I'm going to change out the light modifier on it and just to a translucent umbrella or a shoot through umbrella. Now I'm changing it out to a shoot through umbrella because that's going to make it easier for me to gel the light. Because if I hit this gray background with a gelled color, it is actually going to turn out that color. If you hit a white background with a gel color, it's going to be pastel. If you hit a black background with a gel color, it's going to be a very punchy, vibrant color. But if you hit a medium gray, dark gray background with a gel, you're going to get a nice, vivid, but soft color on the background, whatever that gel color is. So I'm going to take my 8200s because for me, this is a pretty easy small light that I can put right into a translucent umbrella. And I'm going to attach one gel color to it. And I'm going to aim it right at the background. I pull it back just a little bit to get a wider spread. Okay, when I aim that at the background, it shoots that light with the color onto the background and voila, it changes the background color. Now, I encourage you to try this with every single gel color you can think of because it's going to work. The biggest trick that you're going to have to, or the biggest thing you're really going to have to avoid is getting any of that light spill onto the subject. And so for that, I recommend using those V-flats. You can sort of position a V-flat as I have here just in front of the light so that there isn't a lot of spill onto your subject, but there is the light actually still hitting the background. And that way you avoid some of that color spill onto their shoulder or onto their face, because then you don't want to give away that you have gelled the background. That is a big way to give away that you've gelled the background. Okay.
That is a cool trick. Oh my God, that's wonderful.
Neat trick, right? Yeah. So this is, I wanted to show this too that we didn't cover in the video, but so this is gelled paper. This is black paper. So if you want to get like neon and like vibrant colors, you can do this with black paper. The issue will be that the black paper is going to absorb your light a lot. So, you know, if I had a pullback of this, and I don't anymore because this is pretty old, but this is just a strobe with a 7-inch reflector with like an 8x10 gel put over the end of the reflector and hung and like boomed behind this kid's head and onto the background. So I had to crop in this tight because the radial gradient pattern that happens from it is pretty tight. So he would have to be really far from the background, and I would have to have a whole lot of light power and have a lot of distance to be able to get that spread as wide as I can get it on a gray background. But you don't get the as vibrant of a color on a gray background as you do on black. Does that make sense? So it's a really cool trick. And if you, like I said earlier, if you're budget minded and you're like, I don't want to invest in a ton of colors, but I have a client that has a specific need, I just think that you should, you know, invest in some gels, and make sure when you get a gel pack that you get like a duplicate kit so that you have more than one of a color. Because sometimes it might be that you need to gel more of a, like you want to do gelled kicker lights, or you want to light a bigger background. And so you need two of the same color. A lot of times I would buy a kit and realize I only had one piece of a color, and I'd have to do a lot of combining to get the colors the way that I wanted them to. So yeah, so I don't know, I just thought it's a thing that I was doing a lot for a while, and I'm doing it again now, and it's really fun. So yeah, so that's just kind of like, you know, there are many other lighting setups that I have done and can do, but these are, you know, some easy ways to get some versatility. And, you know, these images are not particularly like, ooh, these are exciting. I wanted to show out of camera, unretouched images so that you could sort of see just what the light was doing and not cover any of it up with retouching. So I hope that made sense.
We have some questions in the chat real quick, Kira.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do customers care about the shape of light in their eyes?
No, no, good question though. No, nobody cares about the shape of light in their eyes. I care about the shape of light in their eyes. I think that's a personal preference. I've always liked round catch lights. I have rectangular boxes. I don't know. I just like round ones. I don't know. I will say why I like round ones. I know why I like round ones. Oftentimes, if I am trying to open up somebody's eye, like if you've got somebody with a winky eye, and they've got the round soft catch light in one eye, but in their winky eye they've got like a half catch light, I find that when I need to do that retouch and duplicate, like clone that catch light into the other eye, it works a little bit better for me when it's round than when it's rectangular, when it's like huge and rectangular. I feel like the rectangular ones take up a different portion of the eyeball than the round ones do. But I really think that's to each their own thing. I have never, not once, not never had a client complain to me that their catch lights were round or complain that their catch lights were rectangular. They've never, that's not something that they notice unless they secretly are photographers.
There you go. And the other question is, do you change it up and use grids to thin down faces?
Yeah. So some other techniques that I have used before are using subtractive lighting and using grids to pop out cheekbones, or on some of the guys, or even on women, if I want to slim the face, I'll even put black panels on either side of the face to because when you're doing clamshell lighting, you're putting light all over the face and you're filling in a lot of shadows. So even though that looks very flattering on women and fills in a lot of fine lines, the downside to that is that it can flatten their face and make their face look wider. So like on the model that I was using, her face, it's okay because she has she has those punchy cheekbones and the skinny face. But if it were like, a woman, 40 plus and you were trying to slim her face, you could still do that clamshell lighting. But if you put black panels on either side, just on either side of her face, then you bring the shadow back to the shadow side, to the jawline, while still filling in the lines on the face. So you're almost like creating like a tunnel of light pointed at them. Sometimes I've used grids before if I want to bring in more drama. So if I'm doing like a more dramatic portrait, some of my competition images that I've done in the past, I love doing like a spooky low key, like a dark moody low key, and I'll use grids a lot of the time to really hone in that light and create a mood. I don't find that I use it all that much with just my everyday standard corporate headshot work, except to use it for kickers, for hair lights and separation. I will use it for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Sure,
Does
sure.
that answer your question, Jules and Paul? Think so? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
thank
Yeah, my
Okay.
my question about the customers was because when I looked at the picture, I could see the top, the front, the big light at the front top, and also the table light in their eyes.
Mhm.
So that's why I was like, there was two whole lights, and I was wondering,
If they've ever complained about all the light in their
yeah,
eyes?
because usually, like you said, usually you like one little light in the corner of their eye or something.
Yeah, yeah. You mean when I did the clamshell and you've got the reflector on the bottom side so you can see the panel on the bottom side?
Yeah, you saw.
I have
They-
never had anyone complain about it, but if they, the only place that I have had complaints about it is when we were in image competition. And in image competition, you'll hear this a lot, like judges, they want that one catch light. And so oftentimes people are like retouching out bottom catch lights,
Right.
just to show the top catch light. But I mean, they make entire tool like the eyeliner. If you've ever used one of those, the eyeliner is designed to create that bottom reflection. I mean, a curved bottom reflection, of course, not a
Right.
square one, but that's designed to create that light back in the eye. I have rarely. I mean, I honestly, I've been doing this for 11 years. I have never had anyone say that's too much light in my eyes, or could you remove one of the catch lights, or why are there two catch lights or three in the eye? That the only time I hear that is with other photographers or from a judge in image competition.
Right. It's just a preference, I guess.
I think it's a preference. And I also think that they're not looking as closely at those the way we were zoomed into a lot of that work. I don't think that they're that close to them either, because when they're using them typically as a small thumbnail on a LinkedIn profile, or, as a profile picture on social media, or printed on a business card. So, I mean, it's, unless they have a real big hang up about their eyeballs, I just don't think that you'll hear that as often from them, but certainly something that we notice for
Well,
sure.
Paul, that's funny that you brought it up, because I was at Ulta with my daughter this weekend, and we were looking at all the print ads for all the makeup and skincare. And I was walking around quizzing my 13-year-old, saying, okay, well, how many lights did they use on that image? How many lights? Because you could see on these national print, um, you know, for big companies, they still had 3 catch lights in the eye, or you could see the eyeliner that they used. So obviously these big high dollar companies aren't worrying about it either. So we shouldn't worry about it with our headshot clients.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah. They're,
Right.
it's surprising. It's surprising what they're not worried about.
I know, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap up this portion of it, and of course, so it must be like 7:07 there. Is that what I'm getting from what we're at, or did I?
Yep, or 7:07. You got it.
Oh, okay, cool. So how much more time do I have so I know what else I can show you? Because I'd love to show you other things.
Oh, we have at least another 50 minutes.
Oh, okay, great. Okay,
Keep
good.
going.
Okay, cool. So, well, before I move into this next little section where I'm going to talk to you about some composite stuff and some sales stuff on how we do this, I wanted to share with you guys a few special offers just for you. ReTouchUp is a sponsor of our podcast, and when I am doing a lot of volume work with headshot work, I send it out, and I don't feel bad about it anymore at all. So I used to be like, oh my gosh, if I don't touch it, if I don't touch every second of it, then it's not mine. But when you're shooting 60 headshots for a company, and you're not a hero for retouching all 60 yourself. So it saves a lot of time. They get it done a lot faster than I can. And it's really affordable, especially if you're pricing it so that it makes sense. So if you are not a customer of ReTouchUp, you can use the code GYST. That stands for the podcast. Get your shoot together. And make sure you put that in your referral code for a new account, and Gary Poole will send you a coupon that you can use as a new customer. And if you are a customer of ReTouchUp already and you want a coupon, you should email me, and I will forward that over to Gary Poole, and he will put a coupon in your account as a little special nice bonus from ReTouchUp. And then also they have a service called Edit Smart, which is video editing. And I know this offer expires on May 31st, but I promise you, if you use it as the referral code, the GYST, or if you email me, if you already have an account, Gary will probably give you a coupon. So Edit Smart is just video editing. They have a new video editing service. So if you don't want to create videos yourself, or if you want to film it yourself and you just want them to edit it into something usable, it's very, very, very affordable. So check them out for that. It's called editsmart.com, and it is a sub company of ReTouchUp. And also, Spider Holster gave me a coupon to give you guys. I use Spider Holster. I use that hand strap from Spider Holster, and I also use the belt from when I go on location. So if you want 20% off your order, you can use the code Kira, Kira, which is my name. And last little promotional thing I want to share with you guys is Mary and I are doing a workshop. We're doing a retreat in Las Vegas, and it is at the beginning of WPPI, right before it starts, and like during the first day. So if you are interested, we have, I think, 2 spots left. We're only holding the class to 10 people because we wanted to have a very custom workshop. But Mary's covering business, I'm covering shooting. It's 2 days, and next week we are opening our Facebook group to the people who have signed up so that we can do all their pre-con work and customize everything for them. So if you're interested in coming with us to Las Vegas, I hope you will. It is getyourshoottogether.com if you want to join us. Okay, that all being said, I am going to stop my share for just a second so I can see your faces. Hi. I see some faces, hello, and then I see headshots, nice headshots. Okay, so the next part that I'm going to get into is composite work, okay, for commercial, not for like amazing Richard Sturtevant composite work, but like for for working with corporate clients who need to have a very usable set of images so that they can create billboards and park benches and bus sides and have a lot of variety as they go. Does that sound good to you guys? You want to hear about that and how we do that?
Yeah. You're
Okay.
going to talk about your project too with the teachers where you put everybody in the box and.
Oh yeah. I could tell you about that
That's
too. I
cool.
just have to dig it up. Yeah. So yeah, I did with last year during COVID, when the teachers, the kids were doing digital, like all digital, nobody was going into school. I went and did a shoot for my daughter's elementary school where I photographed all of the teachers individually in a little square box. I'll pull it up, and then I photoshopped them into one huge group portrait so that they could have a group portrait for their yearbook. And, you know, usually the teachers get to have like a big group portrait for the yearbook and that goes out every year. And we didn't get to do that this year because they couldn't stand shoulder to shoulder. So we did a whole project on that. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Let me get the screen back up. All right, so this is the huge, huge composite that we did for the school. Now, I don't do a lot of like volume schoolwork, and so I know some of you might do it, but this was challenging but fun. We built out a box out of 2x4s and painted it. My husband built it, and we used the stage at the school, and which meant that we could shoot a little bit lower than height of it. And we photographed every single employee of the school like this. And then we cut them out and put them on this nice little composite. And then as a gift for the school, I made this on a big metal piece and they hung it in the lobby of the school. And it was just fun to do because nobody really knew what to do. And everybody was feeling so weird about being together, rightfully so. And they were, everyone was just really nervous. So we tried to create an experience that made them feel like they were together and coming back to the school year as a team when they couldn't physically be side by side. So it was a fun project for me to work on, and certainly the first of its kind for me to take on a composite that large. But it was fun.
Oh, and it turned out amazing. That's the first time I've seen the completed project.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Yeah, I'm real bad about talking
about it. I didn't see it completed, and it turned out so good.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Great.
That's a fun school. My daughter just graduated from the school. I'm so super sad. I love all these teachers. They're so great. So thank you. Yeah, I guess I never really share. I would talk about this stuff on the podcast, but then where do you put it, to share it? So, so that is one that we did. I'm going to show you a more recent one, and I'll show you, let me get to where it is now.
Kira, while you're looking that up, I thought of some more questions with your
Yes,
headset.
absolutely.
Did you share what lens, what are you shooting? 85 millimeter? What lens are you shooting? And it looked like you had really nice clarity, like on your brother. The face was very sharp, and then you had some good fall off depth of field on the shoulders. What aperture are you using?
So when I'm looking for, when I'm doing something in the style that I did my brother's in, which I would consider to be kind of like a basic, more cinematic, I would use this style for a lot of my actors and models and musicians, especially for gelling the background. I tend to shoot anything like that. I'll shoot at f4. I don't go below that because we don't really need to, because I need to be able to I want to have nose to ear and focus. And I want to be able to get back far enough so that I have a nice soft fall off on the shoulder. Typically when I'm doing what I'm going to show you guys now, I'm shooting at f8 or f11. So I have, if at all the client needs the image cut out, I'm going to be shooting at f8 or f11. For obvious reasons, f4 won't work well, but almost none of my actors and models and people who are looking for headshots for that purpose ever need it cut out. They always want it done in that style. And so I kind of reserve that shallow depth of field for that. And that for those, everything that I showed you guys, I was using that Sigma 24 to 105 lens, I believe. And that one only goes to f4. That's as far as it opens up. So, I've got lenses that open up to 2.8. The only times I ever do like 2.8 or 1.8 or whatever is if I am on location and I really want to get like amazing compression from a long distance. And in the studio, I don't consider that to be necessary, especially when I'm using plain backgrounds. It just kind of seems wasted and then an opportunity to misfocus, So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great.
One?
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so this one is one that I just finished. And if you're a member of my Facebook group, I did a little post about this one recently. My Facebook group is called Level Up. If you aren't a member, please join. We'd love to have you there. It's just where I go drop little nuggets of things that I'm working on to share for no other purpose other than I just like to talk about it because I'm a nerd when it comes to photography. So for this project here is with a day spa here in town, and they this was created during a time where it was kind of end of where people started, well, beginning of when people started getting vaccinated. So probably earlier this year, but they were still very concerned, obviously, about being seen photographed without masks, shoulder to shoulder. So they came to me and booked this and said, we really want to go ahead and do this composite work. But aside from that's becoming no longer a reason to do it. So aside from that, the reason to do this is because if you have a company that has turnover where you're acquiring new employees or you are losing employees because of one reason or another, you have interns or they move away, then it's good to have a composite based image so that we can redo this photo frequently without having to have everyone back in the studio at all one time. Because I will say that that is probably the number one deterrent for when a company needs to get a new group photo and they've waited 5 years to do it. It's because they're just so overwhelmed by the idea that they have to get everybody back in the studio to do new pictures. Because you'll have Sandra in accounting who loves her picture that she already has and she doesn't want to get a new one. And you'll have Joe who can't come in and get his done because his daughter has a dance recital and it's going to take all day and he's already asked off work. So, I mean, like when you work with a larger company than this one, composite images are a great solution for them when they are waiting way too long to get their team portraits done again. It's also great if you've got a client who has branches all over the place, like in different cities, because it gives me the opportunity to create a lighting diagram that I can then sell to the client so that they could then take and shop to another photographer in another city. If they've got, you know, a branch in Denver, Colorado, and they need to match this, and they're not going to fly me up there, you know, to photograph 3 people up there, you know. So that is, so there's lots of reasons to do it, but for me this has been a good selling point because obviously you're going to charge more for this work. The way I charge for it is I charge individually for the image, for the individual person's image, okay, because then we take that image and we create like a 3/4 for them so that they can use it and, you know, on the website and for social media, and, you know, a lot of marketing pieces can be created from the 3/4. We can crop to head and shoulders, but of course we do lose resolution from a full length image. And nowadays our resolution is getting higher and higher, so it's becoming less and less of a problem. But, you know, I don't recommend selling this so that, yeah, and then we'll just crop it to right to their chin, you know, because when you're shooting full length, you do, you know, you are going to lose resolution on the close up. So I usually recommend the 3/4. So I provide them with a full length and a 3/4. And then they're paying for those images individually. And then they're also paying for the team photo group composite as a flat rate. And then they're paying every time they need somebody added or removed down the line. So the structure would work like this, because I don't want to tell you guys what to charge. I mean, obviously it's different in every single market, but if you think of it this way, you're charging for the session. So I have a group session fee in the studio when everybody comes in and gets their session done. You're charging individually for the portrait of each individual person, and then you're charging a flat rate for the finished composite image. When you do that, then when they go, okay, well, we need to add another person and we need to remove Joe from the picture, well, then you go, okay, great. Well, we'll charge a session fee to have the new person come into the studio. They'll get a session fee rate. They'll pay for that portrait, and then you'll also pay for the image to be recomposited. Does that make sense to everybody what I'm saying? So it's not a opportunity to take advantage by any means, but it's an opportunity for you to get taken advantage of if you don't realize what goes into every little step of this. So if you charge a flat rate for the whole shoot and the composite, and then they have like 6 dozen changes that they need to make, you're starting to lose money, if that makes sense. Or if you're like, no problem, just have them come in and I'll photograph them and I'll charge one rate to do that. And then you're probably losing some money on the fact that you charged a session fee before and you charge for the individual portrait before. So you need to continue with that line of thinking when it comes to your rates so that the client doesn't get confused, if that makes sense. But as far as the composite goes, a lot of these I'm doing on, again, just clean white backgrounds. I am creating the shadow work in there myself. But also if you're somebody who is just not great at compositing, or if that intimidates you, you can send this to ReTouchUp. All you have to do is send your individual portraits to ReTouchUp to be cut out, and then send out the PNG files that they create for you, send that back to them, and for $10, they'll composite the image for you. So in my proofing that I do for the client, let's see, did I put that somewhere useful? I did. Let me show you where I put that. Let's see. So I send everything out via Pixie Set, if you can't tell. Okay. So when I'm proofing with a client and I give them a couple of options, so I send them a unretouched mock-up of what it could look like. Okay. So I just grab and I do a loose cutout of every single person. I don't retouch them. And then I show them, okay, so we could do it like this, you know, where we're using, these are the shots that I've chosen for the client. And here's the principal player. And I put her in the middle, and I give them a couple of options, not too many, because you don't want to overwhelm them. And this is the one that they ended up going with. But I also have a version where everybody's close together. No shadow work has been done here. And another version where of the first one or the second one, where everybody's close together. And so I sent them those options, and I don't give them too many options because I don't want to get into a situation where they're like, I like me in the 4th photo, but I like so-and-so's head in the 5th photo. And it just sort of saves some time on the back and forth when you're doing the composite. Because, you know, sometimes a client will give you complete creative freedom to do it yourself, and sometimes they want to have a lot of input. So I just try to have a plan in place for that makes the process kind of painless. Any questions about that so far? I'm gonna see if I can show you another one. Okay, so when I am proofing with a client, let's see here. When I'm proofing with a client, here's another set of proofs. So these are all, let me show you this big. These are all individual images shot of every single person, and then mocked up. No shadow work done, just mocked up, just dropped in next to each other, so that I can ask the client, you know, which one of these final images would you, are you interested in me finishing up for you? And so they'll go, oh, I love, they'll go through in Pixie Set, you can heart the ones that you want and send the choices, or they can let me know what the changes are going to be. But you see how important it is that you get this stuff right in camera, because none of this stuff has been retouched yet, and yet they all look like they have been, and so part of this is so that we can get, that's why I tether, honestly, because even if I look on the back of the camera, I'll miss something. And so when I tether and I've got it on the bigger screen, I can say, oh gosh, I can see that this light isn't firing at the correct power. Or I can see that it's creating an unflattering shadow on my subject, or that their hair is not doing right. It's just a great benefit to me, basically. Let's see. And let's see, there is another one. See how many headshots I do. Any questions while I'm digging for something?
Anybody? Lisa Miller says, for headshots, what do you recommend regarding showing full head or cropping off the top?
So, I don't crop off the top when it comes to commercial or corporate. Like if it's individuals, if it's a realtor, if it's a, if it's corporate at all, I try and include the shoulders when possible, because
That was from 12 to 1:30.
half the time they want to, I think I'm hearing somebody talk, sorry. Half the time they want to have the shoulders so they can cut themselves out and put themselves on something, or have me cut them out and put themselves on something. The only times that I crop heads is with my actors and models in that cinematic look, because I tend to come up from a higher angle and shoot at a down angle, and I will often crop close to the head or crop in at the shoulder. Does that answer that question? It's really just a choice, a style choice when it comes to who we're photographing and what it's for,
Kira, how long are your headshot sessions?
So I block an hour for all of my headshot sessions, and let me come back. I'll just come back to you guys and look at you for a second. I block an hour for all of my headshot sessions because what I like to do is my headshot sessions probably take 20 to 30 minutes, from start to finish, because I try and help them plan ahead of time for what they're going to be doing when they come in. So, 1 to 2 outfits is what the max is. It's a small session. With my sessions, they're only going to be getting 2 final images, and they're with their package, but they can always add on more during the order session. And I want to leave enough time to have an order session. So I
And
can get it done 20 to 30 minutes.
okay, so it's 20 to 30 minutes, and you have the order session just right in that hour, right? Like
In the
immediately after.
Immediately after I try. So we'll go directly to the sales room, and I'll have it up screen shared on the TV through my AirPlay. And then I will go through Lightroom with them and just quickly help them cull down. So they'll look at every image, but so that's the other importance of not overshooting. You don't want to be going through 200 images in 30 minutes, but yeah, we make our selections there. And typically the reason I have for doing that is because they'll pay a flat rate for the headshot session and get their 2 images, but they'll also be able to, I typically add on maybe 2 to 3 more images at the order session. So the money spent that they already paid ahead of time is that flat rate for those 2 images and the session, but then I'm making additional money during that order. So the goal of the order session is to add on, minimum 1 additional image to, 3, sometimes a lot more,
And you do, in terms of posing, like, because the reason I'm asking this is because if they're going to order different photos, more photos, right? I'm guessing it's because you'll do like different poses for, although otherwise they have no reasons to
otherwise they have no reason. So I try to do it, especially if they've come in one outfit. I try to give them 2 different background options, a winter and a spring, if you will. So maybe something high key and maybe something on the medium, neutral, darker gray, because that way they have options, and maybe they like, maybe they're like, oh, okay, well, I'll get, there's 2 that I really like on the high key on the white, but I really like the way that darker one looks. I'm like, great. So in the fall, you can change it over to the, because sometimes they just come in a suit jacket, and they didn't bring multiple outfits. So that's an opportunity to just kick your lights off on the background and do a darker background. That's, again, another reason for that super efficient, albeit kind of boring, grays, whites, dark, because you can in a second change it up so that you can offer variety so that you can make more money in the sales session, but obviously different poses. So I also always ask people if they are interested in getting any 3/4. 3/4 are a good way to do an add-on sale. Like they didn't think they wanted a 3/4, but you do, all their headshots, and you're like, hey, do you think you might need me to back up and maybe get like to the hip or anything like that? And they're like, oh yeah, why don't we just take a couple and see what happens, and then they'll get their 2 headshots, close-up headshots, and then they'll get the additional photos will be the 3/4,
Good point.
So,
Thank you.
We have another question in the chat about, do you shoot all your composites with the same exact lighting setup, or would you do different groups with different lighting setups? Like, oh, you did the dentist office one way and you did the salon a different way, or is it all the same?
So I try and light it fairly flat, if you notice, in some of those images, because I don't want direction of light to become a problem if I need to flip somebody. So I try to center light or really soft light the subjects, either using the scrim or the 7-foot PLM, so that the direction of light, why we want direction of light, and you'll see it in a lot of the images. For some of the bigger groups, and especially the ones where I have this one law firm, and they're very focused on making themselves look like they're a reality show series. Like they market themselves that way, they look that way. And so oftentimes they ask me, they're like, well, I want to flip this person, or I want to whatever. So for them, I almost always light them I have a boom arm right over that doorway. And so I can put the octabox in the middle and center light everybody so that the light is always in the middle and falling down on them. And that way, if I need to flip somebody, the direction of light doesn't throw the whole image off, because believability is maybe the number one thing that will ruin a composite image, and it may not even be something that the client notices, but like you guys notice it, right? Like when you're looking at something and you're like, well, obviously the same person didn't shoot all that, you know what I mean? Like it's like all chopped up and together in different lighting. So I try to make the lighting not as noticeable, even though the artist in me wants really great lighting, you know, really great shadows, really great contouring, that sort of thing. I try to, it can get a little boring on the light just because you don't want to cause yourself a problem down the road. Makes sense?
Yeah. Oh gosh. So somebody's trying to call me. They're asking, is the lighting on the composite? They said it looks stronger and brighter than the lighting on some of your seated headshot demo lights.
Oh yeah, because on the, when I'm proofing that stuff, I will go ahead and do a quick tone curve in Lightroom. So I'll pull my shadows down, pull my darks down, pull my lights up, pull, you know, just to make a little curve adjustment in there to get it a little punchier, you know, so that they can kind of see what the end result will look like. I thought it was important in the demo to show you guys just sort of like out of camera, you know, kind of mute. I know it looks a little muted. It also looks a little muted because it's coming through Zoom, but I thought it would be important to show you guys unretouched stuff. But there's no curve adjustments in the stuff that I showed you in the demo, but curve adjustments on the proofs. I almost always proof things with a little bit of a tone curve punch, you know, on it.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And Nancy says, even when I use the same lighting on the background isn't always the same color. Is that a lighting problem?
Might be a lighting problem, Nancy. It could be. Is there? Well, I'll ask this: are there any other variables happening? If you move further away from the subject, it might change the tone of the background. If your subject moves at all, and you have to move the light slightly to catch them, it might change the tone of the background. If your ambient light in the room somehow is spilling on into the room, like you even noticed, like in the demo when I did a silhouette of my brother, you could see some of the light was on him. That's because the ambient light was actually affecting his face in that silhouette. So sometimes you might be having variations in your background lighting. If you're shooting at a wider aperture, you might have variations because the ambient light is changing in the room. Or if you at all adjust your shutter speed or your aperture. I mean, you know, I think those are some things, like shutter speed, especially if you're like, you put it on a tripod and you're able to shoot, you know, shutter speed, the longer the camera is open, the more time the background will have to expose. So that'll change your background exposure as well. So if you're shooting, if you start out at like 1/125th and then go drop it to 1/60th and then you adjust your lighting power, your background is going to be different because you've had your shutter open longer. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you. That does make sense.
Okay, good. It could be several things. I say just like take out all the variables and add things back one at a time and see what's affecting it.
I didn't even think about, because I was using constant light, but I didn't think about the ambient light could have been slightly changing.
Yeah, and you know, constant light also can, if you're using constant light, that probably means you're shooting at a high ISO or a wider aperture, I assume.
You know, it's a while ago. It was the first time I did headshots, but that I did it for a group, and I was it was a fashion gray, which really wish I picked a different background, but the grays all looked different.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And maybe I made adjustments. I don't know.
I would bet it's the ambient light. If it's a continuous light they're using, I would almost venture if there was a window in the room at all. I would venture to guess that it is the ambient light that was affecting that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because when I did the last ones for them, they came to my studio. By that time I had a stroke, and it was just so much easier. But then trying to match the old ones, it's like, okay, can we pick this color?
You know, a lot of times too, you know, there have been times where I've worked with clients for many years and I went on location and did some work for them. And then I needed to come back to the studio and they started sending people to the studio and I needed to match it, what I did on location.
Right.
I try and take it's called a plate of, if you do a location shoot or you do something you don't normally do, I try and just take a without any subject in there of what the background looks like. And
good idea.
Yeah. And that way, and save that to that client job, because you could always shoot them in studio and cut them out and drop the plate behind them. And then it matches more evenly to what you
Right.
originally had to, shoot. I have stuff that I hate that I did a long time ago, but I'm still having to match it. Or, a background I've had clients where they wanted an environmental look like of their office behind them for the
Yes.
headshot. And so I always shoot a plate, and I even throw it into manual focus and blur
Oh, yeah. Good
frame.
idea.
So I can get that look, and then it's easy to just, cut it out and drop that background back in.
Yeah, it was crazy because it was like 35 people and they were being pulled out of a meeting. So I had like just minutes, with each person, and it was in an office, but they did have a big window. And so that
I bet that was it.
for
I bet
that
that
made
was
a
it.
difference. So that, why is this color changing?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Questions too about your composites. So how do you replicate when the new employee comes in 6 months later? And then is it best to do composites on a white background, or what color is your background?
So I am doing almost all my composites on a white background. That is not the most popular answer. That is just what I am finding that my clients are asking for a lot of group photos on white, because white is very marketable, and they're able to drop text on top of it, and it's just the most popular thing that my clients are asking for. So why shoot it on something else and then drop white on it? But I do have, that fashion gray that Nancy was talking about. I do have kind of that fashion gray that I will sometimes shoot it on, just have like that neutral gray background, because I can cut them out, put them on any other tone if I want to. And the gray makes it so that you're not having issues with white, like if people's hair is thinner and the white background is like coming through because of the strobes. The gray makes it easier when you're not lighting the background for light to be coming from behind. That eliminates that problem, so you don't have so many cutout problems that you have to fix. The other option, of course, is to go green or blue chroma. But I don't like it, because I find that it kicks back, if you light the background at all, it kicks back that green hue into the shadows or into the highlights, and then you're spending a lot of time cutting that off. But I know that if you do shoot on green and you like shooting on green, or if you'd like to try shooting on green, if you guys know who Ben Shirk is, Ben makes a action, I think he sells on his website, that eliminates all that, because he does all his composite work. And Sturdivant, he does all his composite work on green.
Are you talking green screen when you
Yeah,
said
green.
shooting on green? Okay,
Yeah,
on green.
chroma
Okay,
key.
got
Yep.
it. Yeah.
Mhm. And so those guys who are like humongous, artist compositors, they're shooting on green for their athletes and for their, beautiful epic work. And they're just running an action to remove the green cast that comes from it. So it's really, what do you want your workflow to be? I don't want to run the action. And I like being able to keep that white up, because I might be doing a composite at one point in the day and then later doing a headshot in the day. And I don't want to be, rehanging a green, chroma, in my studio. Cause I've only got so many rollers, to hang stuff on. So yeah, it's personal. Right now I'm shooting everything on white. I can see a time where I would shoot everything on a medium gray, because maybe it might fall out of trend to be on white, and I want to be able to drop them on other colors. It is a little hard to drop them on other colors when they're on white, because you tend to get a little bit of a glow, or God forbid, if you overlight your background and you've got a little bit of haze coming through, that's very difficult it's easy to correct, but it's difficult to correct and then cut out and then put on a different background, so the short answer is maybe you should shoot it on gray if you want to shoot it on a lot of things. I just shoot everything on white right now.
Well, for all of us beautiful silver-haired ladies now, and the young ones like Michelle who have that color, so I wouldn't think white would be your option.
I am glad that you said that, because you're absolutely right. So here's what I do when I have somebody with beautiful silver hair or white hair, or for that matter, sometimes some of the guys that are bald, and I don't want to have any reflection on them. So just for those clients, and I won't move the camera, I won't change any of the lightings. I'll just turn off my background lights on the white, and then I'll put
the one on the wall, reflecting on the wall.
Yeah, if I'm doing it with the bounce flash, that usually if I'm doing the bounce flash one that I showed you in there, that one is a main light. Like if I'm doing it that way.
Yeah.
But what I would do, it's the background lights that are making the white background like pop white. So I would cut those those background lights off and just let the white background go gray.
Okay.
And if the white background goes gray, then I can cut that person out and easily put them on white without compromising their white or silver hair or causing a hard kickbacks from the background lights onto somebody's bald
Okay.
head.
So
So that's a
Thank-
great, thank you for bringing that up, because that is something that I'll modify during a session.
And Every Choice asked about hair and makeup too. Do you offer that in the studio, or you have them come and?
You know, I used to. So just a little history. I used to do the whole glamour session, you know, come in and we provide hair and makeup and we do this whole shoot for you and whatever. And they were so time consuming and not as profitable as being able to turn things around quickly. So what I removed from my business model, I don't do as much glamour anymore, although I do it a little bit. But I removed the hair and makeup on site completely. And what I ended up doing was getting connected with several hair and makeup artists that are in my area, so that when somebody asks for a recommendation for hair and makeup, I can send them somewhere that is very close by so that they can get their hair and makeup done within a block or two of where I'm at. But otherwise, if they're not asking for hair and makeup, part of the instructions for all of my headshot shoots, and all of my shoots actually, is that they arrive hair and makeup ready, that they're not arriving, let me just run to the bathroom and put my makeup on, I just came from the gym, you know what I mean? Like, because their appointments are, because I book everything. It's one thing I don't think I've mentioned yet. I have 2 days set up for headshot sessions in the studio, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That's not for the corporate composites, of course, that's for like individuals needing to book a headshot. And those sessions are back to back. So an hour session block, if somebody comes in and they still need to get ready, well, they're eating into their time that we can be photographing them. And so I make sure that that's very clear in all the communication that I have with the clients beforehand. And then for the corporate sessions, you know, I have had a few sessions where they go, is it all right if we bring our hair and makeup person on site, because we would like them to do touch-ups, we would like them to be there to fix us. And for some of my more, these are big clients, they're trying to get their faces on buses all over town and stuff. We're blocking off enough time and creating an area for them where they can bring in their own artist to help them do touch-ups, but certainly not, I try to avoid having them come in barefaced and then ready and then getting completely ready at the studio, because frankly, that just means that I have to entertain them for an hour. I don't mean to sound like crappy about this, you know what I mean? But I'm just thinking about my time and how many more things I could do for my clients in that time. So if there's an hour where all these people are in the studio and they're all getting ready, there's not a whole lot that I can be doing if I'm already ready, because I don't want to really be getting the set ready while they're there. And I don't really want to be working on some other project while they're there. So to me, I'm losing like a whole hour to 2 hours of work time, of admin time, of answering email time, of booking another session time when people are trying to get ready in the studio. And it's, and lately, I don't really have anyone that's been like, I wish you'd let me get ready here. I mean, it's just kind of like, I think that there was this business model that was introduced a while ago where it's like, you need to provide this service, it's like luxury service. And if your business model surrounds itself around that, then I think that's great. But I need to focus more on creating the end product for them than creating this like amazing, immaculate experience in the studio. I think there's a time and a place for all that, if that makes sense.
Do you offer digital files?
I do. So with almost all of my headshot sessions are primarily a digital delivery system. So it's very rare that, although not unheard of, that a client is purchasing prints or wall portraits or an album from a headshot session. And certainly the corporate ones are looking for digital files because they're using it for marketing pieces. For my family sessions though, where we're trying to sell the wall art. So anything 16 by 20 and larger that goes on the wall, they are going to receive the digital file for that image. They'll get it as part of the piece that they're purchasing. But I also offer digital packages for those family clients. And I don't require that they make a physical purchase, although when they purchase all the digital files from their gallery, it does come with a physical item. I sell the 3XM folio box, the 8x10 box with the 5x7 prints that are matted in it. So they'll receive, because I don't like the idea of them just getting a whole bunch of digital files and not doing anything with them when it comes to like a family session or an art session that we've done. So I will provide them as part of the package. It's, you know, the cost is included with what they're paying for the digital files. They're getting this box of 30 images with the USB drive, with the matted prints in it. And it's like a hefty thing that I hand them for their money that they're forking over for the digital files. So
I'm curious, in a family shoot, approximately how many photos total do you take? And how many do you narrow that down to what you show them to pick from?
Sure. So I would probably take, if it's a family of 5 and we're in the studio, I could see myself taking 200 photos. Like, you know what I mean? I could see myself getting there. But I will try and narrow it down before the order session, of course. And I will likely show them, like 50 maybe, but I'll tell you what I do for the review session. It's the same thing I do for the headshots. I don't retouch a thing. I'm showing them proofs, and we're going through it in Lightroom the same way that I go through my headshot session. So I might have a couple of similar images in there, but I'll hold them up A and B and I'll go, hey, look, so these are the, you know, we've narrowed it down to these. Some of these are a little bit, they feel a little duplicate. Which of these two do you like better? And it's kind of like a little bit of an eye test. And so the goal for me is to get it narrowed down to 30, because if we narrow down to 30, then I can easily sell them an album from that with a 30 image album, 30 page album, or I can sell them that digital file box. But also in the consultation before I'm even doing the shooting, I am working on, with the family client specifically, I'll say, I'm so excited to do this family session, you guys. What are we going to do with these photos? That is like the question that I ask during the consultation, because I want to know, I should know by the time we're at the order session that they've come into me because they really want an amazing family portrait over their fireplace, or they're really looking to get an album done every year. I have a lot of clients that just want a family album every year and they want to fill their bookcase with it. Or they're going, you know, I just want digital files. And if they say, I just want digital files, and in my brain, I'm trying to get them that 30, right? So that we can get that big hefty box over to them. But when the order session comes around, because we've done all that talking about what this is going to go on, what are you going to enjoy this on, then I have a kind of idea, do I need to show them a lot of images? Or if they're really just aiming for that big wall portrait, do I really need to show them like 10? You know, like these are the things I've designed for this wall portrait. These are the pieces that we made together for the end result that you came in here for, you know? So it kind of depends. I try to pride myself in being very custom with the family portrait sessions, because I don't do high volume like I do with the commercial work. So when somebody comes to me, the hope is that they're coming to me because they're commissioning me to make a portrait of their family or portraits of their family, rather than, oh, it's fall, I need Christmas cards, I need a photographer. Because it works out better for the sale, honestly, if I need a photographer, but not I need a photographer, but I need Kira to do our pictures because I want to have this piece that only Kira can do. So that's why when you saw those pictures of the video of the studio and you see all that large wall art, I'm showing the client, this is how I stand apart. This is the kind of things that I create. These are the kind of pieces you're going to see and that are intended for my work. It's a real long way to answer your question, but like, that's the ideology behind how many images I show.
Well, and I think pricing is always depends who you talk to and how new you are at it. I'm not going to charge what Karen Floyd would charge. And no, people that have that are really there, because I'm more beginning. But I'm just saying, for your photo shoot, do you charge more for your session? You have a base of how many people, and then you have add-ons, or you have a limit? Because I'm assuming you do mostly studio. You're doing studio.
If I can help it, I try to do mostly studio. Sometimes people want to brave the elements out here in the heat, and I do it if they pay me money to do it. But I try to show mostly studio work, so that I get hired for mostly studio work. But ask me the first part of that question again, though. You just said something.
You have a base price for how many?
Oh, right. Of how many people?
Photo shoot, and then they add on grandma and grandpa, and then they add on some.
Yeah.
you know,
I usually say for up to 5, you know, and I'll charge an additional rate for each, you know, additional person. It really doesn't happen all that often that, you know, in the consultation, the thing that I'm trying to avoid is the extended family session. Like that's not kind of what my style is in the studio. We can certainly do a large family portrait. I've seen some beautiful stuff. If y'all have ever looked at like Allison Watkins' work where she does these huge, you know, extended family portraits, gorgeous. But that's typically my families are you know, 3 kids, 4 kids max, you know, and mom and dad, or mom or dad, or dad and dad, or mom and mom, whatever, you know. And it's like I don't get a lot of that. So I have that policy in place. So to kind of mitigate people bringing like 40 relatives to a shoot, you know, so I put that in the documentation, but generally I'm doing a consult with every single family beforehand. So I get a good idea ahead of time when we're going to know who's going to be there before the shoot based on that consult.
I made the mistake once and did probably every scenario of all the men with the kids, the girl, everything you could do, you
Yep.
know, and it was insane, probably like 1,400 pictures.
So you know, Lisa Daniel, Greg Daniel's wife, if you guys have ever met them, I'm sure you have, or some of you have, but Greg is the past president of PPA and chairman right now. Lisa Daniel handles all those sales. And so when I thought this was brilliant, that she says this all the time to people when they go, okay, and then I want to get a picture of dad with his second cousin, and I want to get a picture of dad with the dog, and dad with what, you know what I mean? Like, we got to get pictures of dad with like his favorite armchair, whatever, you know. Then Lisa says, that's fantastic. And where is that going to go? Is that going to go in the album, or is that going to go on the wall? And they'll go, oh, I don't know. I don't know. And they'll go, well, if you don't see this in your book, or you don't see this on the wall, then maybe it's not necessary to do. You know what I mean? Like she kind of like nudges that in there. Like she kind of puts it back on them. And where is that going to go? You know? And they go, oh, I don't know. I just thought we'd shoot it. Right. But why? You know, and I just think that's funny, a funny way to, because it's so bold to turn it back around on the client. But truly, when, you know, this happened, you guys are going to hear the podcast or some of you, well, there are listeners to the podcast, will hear it this week. But I had a client, she brought in 100,000 outfits to the shoot. And even though we talked about like 3 outfits, she brought in more outfits than I've ever seen in my life to her session. And at some point I really let it get away from me. And I didn't ask. If I had just asked that question, great. And where is that going to go? Then we could have probably ended like an hour earlier than we did, you know, for the session. So I just think it's a great way to take control back of a session, because sometimes, especially with families, it can go off the rails because they're not thinking about when they're going to see this and what this is going to go on. They're just thinking about, oh, we got to get every combination. We got to get our money's worth. We got to get our money's worth for the hour that we're with you. But, you know, unless you're charging by the hour and you're delivering every image that you have shot, that doesn't make sense for most of our business models. Right. So
yeah, that's excellent. Really good advice on just taking control of the session.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good. I had a couple more questions in the chat. I think you covered this. We've got about 5 more minutes. But again, they just wanted to know, how detailed are your notes on the shoot so that you could replicate it 6 months later when you're doing a new employee? So it's back down to your formulas, right? You just
Mm-hmm.
everything dialed in.
Yeah, I try and keep everything very dialed in. Sometimes I'll shoot, if it's something that I've done that's specifically for that client that's a little outside of my norm. Like I have a client that we had a real specific background for them. In fact, I made a mistake. I bought a background that I thought was cool. And then I used it for this client. And now every single time I shoot this client, I have to use this background, and I have to light it so that this background looks exactly the same as it did that one time, you know, that I use. I never use it again. It just stays rolled up, and I literally just still own it because of this client. And I need to just shoot a plate of it like I've talked about, and then just start dropping this client in so I can get rid of it. But I will sometimes take a pullback, just a wide shot of the lights, and let all the lights fire so I can just kind of see where everything was positioned. And sometimes I will also you know, you can see all your settings, you know, like on their metadata. So if you went back and looked at your setting, like, did I shoot it at f8? Okay, I shot it at f8. You know, like I can see that information. But I also on 17 Hats, if I don't know what you guys are using for your client management, but I use 17 Hats, and on that system, you can create notes for every project that are pretty easy, and you can actually upload images. So if you wanted to, and you wanted to really keep track of it, you could export those pullbacks, even a phone snap of the layout, so you could remember it, and you could upload it to the client project in 17 Hats, and then it would be accessible to not only you, but like if you've got any employees working for you, you could give them access to it, so that like if your assistant needed to go set up the studio, you could go just check that client's project, you know, in 17 Hats and go pull the image. I mean, I'm not that organized. I'm just giving you pieces that you can be, if you're real organized, you could do it that way, and it would certainly work. But that's pretty much how I try and keep track of how we did stuff. And generally at this point in my career, I'm doing a lot of repetitive stuff. It looks unique for the client. I think that's important to make sure the client feels special. But the lighting concepts are all kind of the same. You know, if it's corporate, if it's a guy, I shoot it one way. If it's a girl, I shoot it another way. You know, if it's a bunch of guys and girls, I shoot it in a more generic way. You know, that looks good across the board. You know, if it's an individual, I try and analyze the face a little bit, you know. So if it's somebody with a very narrow face, we're not trying to slim them up anymore. So we don't need to add a ton of more shadows to make them look slimmer. If they are somebody who is concerned about looking slim, you know, then we'll add in some more shadows and try and you know, slim out the jawline that way. So, I mean, it kind of comes down to understanding lighting and doing proper face analysis when you see somebody, and being able to make an adjustment.
Awesome. And
Mhm.
really quick, the last question is, how do you get most of your headshot clients? Are you using Instagram or Google ads, Facebook ads? How do you market?
So word of mouth is so great for me, because every time somebody gets a great headshot, they post it on social media and then they tag me, which is fantastic, because then they're like, who shot your headshot? Every time, who shot your headshot? You look so great. Who shot your headshot? And so I'll get referrals that way. The other way I do referrals is I always ask my clients, if I have a really great session and I see this is something that potentially I might want to share on social media or in my portfolio, I make sure that I ask them, you know, I have a model release in 17 Hats that I can send them. But I also, even if I send that out, at the session, I'll go, this was really great. And if you're okay with it, you know, once you've approved the image, you know, once you've seen it and you've approved it, I would love to be able to share this on social media. I'll tag you, or if you prefer not to, that's fine, but I would love to share it on Instagram. Instagram is pretty much where I share most of my new work, and where I cross tag with people, you know, so I'll tag not only the person in the photo, but I will tag, if they used a hair and makeup person, I'll tag the hair and makeup person. If they got their clothes at a local store, I'll tag that store. I mean, I try and find out as much information as I can about the places we can tag. If they work for a company, but they're an individual, I'll tag the individual and the company, you know, to make sure that we have that. And then the last thing that I do that has really panned out well for me this past year is I started in 17 Hats, you can set up automated emails. And so at the end of a workflow, I send out, after I've delivered the images, I send out an email, it's labeled in my 17 Hats as the final goodbye. And it's an email that thanks them, ask them again if they were, you know, happy with what they received, and if there was anything else I could do for them, just checking in, making sure that I didn't drop the ball somewhere or whatever. And then if they were happy with it, I'd love for them to leave me a Google review, and then I leave a link for the Google review. The Google review has been giving me so much traffic, because the more Google reviews you get, the more positive Google reviews you get. When somebody is just, I need a headshot, I don't know who to go to, headshots Tallahassee, you start coming up in those rankings. I see Antoine nodding his head. Like, you start coming up higher in those Google rankings. So a lot, you know, when I ask somebody, where'd you hear about me? Because, you know, they'll go, oh, I just Googled you. And I'll go, great. Well, then that's working. So
Local search is huge. Is most of Google searches are local searches nowadays.
Yes.
So the
Mhm.
more you pay attention to your Google listing, the better it is.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So pay attention to your Google listing is the advice I can give you, because that's where that, you know, people, the thing about, you know, the family stuff where I was like, I want somebody to come to me because it's me and because they're going to hire me as an artist to photograph their family. I am less concerned about that with headshots. With headshots, it's commodity based. And I just want, if they need a headshot, for me to be the first name that comes up. You know what I mean? And because a lot of people can do headshots. It's not that hard, as you can see, right? I mean, it's once you understand what you're doing. And so it's less about coming to me for the headshot, even though I think that's great when I do hear that, and more about coming to me because I am the headshot photographer that you found quickly and that I made it very easy and I had a fast turnaround time and that the reviews reflected that. So they knew what they were going to get, you know?
Oh, well, Kira, this has been amazing. I think everybody has really loved all the information that you've given us. It's been so relatable and you're just fabulous. We really appreciate you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So I know it's late where you are. It's 11 o'clock and we've had you for 2 hours. So we're going to wrap it up now. Unless you want to stay on with us, we would love to have you. But I think I'll keep the Zoom open for another half hour so everybody here can talk. And if you want to stay, we would love to keep you, but we know that you have a busy life and family and everything. So we want to thank you. Does anybody else have anything to say to Kira before we're done? Anyone?
Thank you so much. That was awesome. That really was, I feel like I've got a lot from my time invested with you and I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's nice.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
She has
You're
2
welcome.
spots left for her Las Vegas.
I do. We have 2. If you want to go to Vegas.
If you liked everything, I can totally say that I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I even wore my shirt for everyone just because
ever.
Everything she said here is stuff that she talks about with Mary on her podcast and more. And I've learned so much from just listening to that and then tonight. So yeah, you guys just got a little nugget of Kira. And she also, are you going to be speaking at Imaging this coming?
I'm taking, I didn't apply this year because I had spoken like the last year for the virtual one and then the year before and the year before that. So I thought maybe I'll not apply this year, but I am speaking in other places and planning on doing some more webinar and workshop work because I'm getting asked for it. So I think I will probably be offering some more stuff here in the coming year.
Oh, excellent. Very good. And then a little plug for, didn't you take Tony's class at Texas School?
I did take Tony's class at Texas School.
Tony is going to be one of our instructors at West Coast School next year. So will you give us a little plug for Tony's class? How did you like it?
Yeah. So the reason I took Tony's class at Texas School is because I was looking for an advanced lighting class. And I called Tony ahead of time before I registered for the class. And I said, I want some next level stuff in here. And he said, absolutely. This is not a big, I don't know what he's teaching for you guys, but at Texas School, it was
next level. He's going to do a very similar class for us.
Fantastic. So yeah, I was like, I want to know more about location shooting commercial stuff. I want to know about the business of the commercial stuff. I want to learn some more lighting tricks and I want to get better with, my portraits. And I just want to be able to go the extra mile with the stuff because foundationally, I don't need any, I was afraid to be in a class where somebody just bought a light, you know what I mean? And he promised me that wouldn't be the case. And that was not the case at Texas School. And I learned a ton of stuff from him. Actually, I learned something from him about TTL. I haven't been shooting it. I have the ability to shoot TTL and I played with it before, but he showed me how to use TTL in a better way. And now I'm using it much more often on location and it's fantastic. So I wasn't having great luck with it before and he kind of solved that problem. So I highly recommend his class. He's a great instructor and he's fun and he tells great stories, so you'll enjoy it. You will.
And then again, another plug for your Vegas Control Alt Delete. They're asking, what are you going to cover at your?
Yeah, so it's a team. It's a team effort. It's me and Mary Taylor. So Mary is going to be covering the business side. We talked a lot about how coming out of the pandemic, a lot of us, some of our businesses had really taken a dive, and some of our businesses we just felt a little bit lost and like not sure how to approach the what the world looks like now and what the consumer looks like now. And so what this is, Mary came up with that great idea to call it Control Alt Delete, because it's kind of a refresh, restart for the business side, really doing some hardcore business planning, really doing some goal setting and learning about looking at areas of your business that need to improve, or areas of your business that need to maybe even go, hightail it. And then if you're getting started, it's about getting started the right way. So the reason we're having such a small class of under 10 or 10 or under is because we wanted to be able to really devote a lot of individual time prior to the class starting, so that if you're at a different level than somebody else in the class, like you haven't been in business 10 years and you're not looking, to do the same thing as the person who's been in business 10 years, then we could really customize that business side of the portion for the day one. And then we're also going to be doing shooting while we're there too. So location shooting, I'm going to be doing some tethered shooting demo, showing how I do that, showing how I do more of those sales, and then showing how I'm doing location headshots. And then everybody who's coming is going to be getting a headshot for me as well. At the Flamingo, we're doing it at the Flamingo. So that's been a funny location, because Mary has mixed feelings about the Flamingo, but I like it because they've renovated everything and it looks really cool. So from a photography standpoint, I'm very excited to be able to use it as a backdrop. But and then it's also on the cusp of WPPI. So if you were thinking about going to WPPI, you might be able to spend a couple of days with us, and then head over to the trade show or head over to some of the classes at WPPI and take advantage of the trip in a really full way. And then, not for nothing, the first night we're going to go to RuPaul's Drag Race. As the show is hosted in the Flamingo. So the night before the workshop, where all of the attendees, I think we're all going to go do that. So
that'll be really fun.
Yeah, because Vegas shows are opening back up, and that's going to be open. So it's going to be a fun trip, but it's going to be heavy on the business side of stuff, marketing, planning, goal setting, things like that. And then, good on the shooting and tethered technology and efficient studio stuff. So I'm trying to analyze all the attendees' studio spaces and helping them make it more efficient so that they can get more done in it with less.
Excellent. Oh, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Well, now we're over. We could keep talking. I mean, really.
Yeah. I'm just sitting. How about I just sit here and y'all talk?
No, we'll keep. I mean, if you want to stay, we'll keep picking your brain.
No, I think she wants to rest. She just wants to listen to us now.
Oh,
Right?
I just missed a good guild meeting. Tallahassee, we haven't had our in person yet. We've been doing everything online too. We have a local group, and so we're meeting in person at my studio actually this month for the first time. So it's just I miss a good guild meeting.
Who's all in your guild? Anybody else we might recognize?
Do you know Linda Long? Have you ever met Linda Long?
I met Linda, but I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a Tallahassee-based photographer. She just became a juror for IPC, but she also has a Facebook group on image competition that a lot of people are a part of. And she does a lot of teaching too. She's taught at Imaging USA before. I don't know. You'll know a lot of Florida people, but Tallahassee people, Linda's probably the only one that goes out and does stuff on the national level.
How far from Boo Ray and Gary?
They are about 4 hours away. So Tampa and Orlando. So about 4 hours from here. Okay. Both, but split in two different places. Yeah. Tallahassee is like a geographical oddity. It's 4 hours from everywhere you want to be. Savannah, Atlanta, Tampa, Orlando.
Oh, that is kind of nice though, to be able to get places. And then your family, I think you said your family's in Atlanta, or where are they?
No, so my parents live in South Georgia. So on the way. They live in Bainbridge, and then Kevin's family lives in Birmingham, the Birmingham area in Alabama.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I know over here on the West Coast, we're so funny because we can go to Mexico. We can maybe get to San Francisco in about 10 hours, or we can get to Arizona in about 6 hours and Vegas in 5 hours.
Exactly. I forgot you guys could drive to Vegas.
Yeah, we drive to Vegas. If we drive fast, it'll be 5.5 hours, right, Jules?
Yeah. Well,
Jules drives with me.
Well, everyone, because we're in Florida, everyone always thinks that we're so, oh, you're so close to like Miami and Key West and whatever. And I'm like, I'm basically in Georgia. Like it's a 9-hour drive for me to get down to Miami. Like it's a big
You're
state.
a little more central for more things you want to get to. We're just kind of hanging on the edge of the water.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice location though. You guys have a nice location.
Hey, you're gonna have to come out here.
Kira, I have a question. So I'm looking up what we had written about you for your presentation. So the best way to follow you and find you, so I can find you on Facebook, and then will it mention your podcast if I want to? Where do I get your podcast?
So if you, we have a Facebook page for the podcast. If you just look up Get Your Shoot Together on Facebook, you put that in the search bar, you can follow us on Facebook.
Okay.
And then we post the podcast every single week, and you can follow it there. Or we also have our website, getyourshoottogether.com.
And then information on your retreat sounds so funny in Vegas. All that information is there?
Yes, on getyourshoottogether.com. All the information on the retreat.
Okay. All righty. Yeah. Yeah, you've been great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening and learning. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll shut up now. You guys hang out.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
How did you and Mary get together?
So I was at the judges workshop probably 6 or 7 years ago, taking the class. And it was during IPC, and she was judging IPC. And one of the, in the evenings, all the judges hang out in the lobby when they were together, they were hanging out in the lobby at the hotel. And if you were taking the class, you just hung out in the lobby at the hotel. So it was like a little mini convention. And I think I was running my mouth about women photographers and millennial women photographers, which is what I am. And like the bad rap we were getting at the time. And I was talking about ways that our local guild was our whole guild was made up of mostly female millennial photographers, right? In Tallahassee, it was mostly that we had like 2 guys in the whole group. And so I was talking about it to somebody, and she overheard, and she's on the board of directors for PPA. And she was like, got in on the conversation, and I didn't know, I knew who she was, but I had never met her or whatever. And then I just kept yammering on, as I tend to do, about stuff. And at the end, she was like, thank you so much for your input. That was great. And then like 2 months later, I got a call from Greg Daniel that was like, hey, I was just wondering, like, if somebody were to ask to nominate you for the board of directors for PPA, like, would you be interested in running? And I was like, what does that even mean? And so our friendship kind of that's where we really talked for the first time, but our friendship kind of started because I ended up, getting onto the board, and then we ended up working together quite a bit on different projects for PPA and becoming just really good. She and I always ended up being the last people up at the end of the night. Like you go to dinner and then you go get drinks, and then everybody kind of tapers off or whatever. And then we just kept finding ourselves being the last ones up, so we just became really good friends.
Cool.
Yeah.
I knew Mary in college.
Did you? Oh my
We held a
gosh.
camera.
Yeah.
And I actually shot her and her husband's engagement pictures.
Oh, that's awesome. You heard
that back before I really knew what I was doing either. But she's a great gal. I haven't seen her since college.
Really?
Been in touch with her at all.
Oh
she
my
shot
gosh.
my wedding.
She did. Are you a PPA member? How have you not seen her?
I just haven't been on the East Coast to hang out in that group.
Well, you guys
done Imaging USA. I would have run into her there, but
right. Well, this year, Imaging USA, I know it's still East Coast, but it's in DC, which is a little bit easier to get into than some of the places that we've had it before. And it's in National Harbor, and I've seen the location. It's like we've never had a convention here before, and I toured the location. And what's nice about it is it's the venue is beautiful where we're having the convention at. It's a nice big space, but there's also tons of shopping and restaurants and things in the area in National Harbor, so that you don't feel like you're kind of trapped in a bubble. You know what I mean? Like if you wanted to go and get something to eat off site, you're not having to go very far or get a car or anything like that, which is nice. you know, so I'm excited. I'm excited about DC. You should come to DC. Well, you don't have to answer now. Think about it. Think about it.
Exactly.
Come on, Ken. And isn't it like really cheap this year? Like $59 or something?
Yeah, so we did a COVID relief plan for last year where we made the convention, we tried to make the convention significantly more affordable than it had been in the past, and then we rolled that over to this year. So we're covering PPA is covering a portion of the hotel costs for every member per night. If you're staying under, you go and you still have to pay for your hotel, but we've cut the cost significantly because we're physically paying for hotels for everybody to come and do it. And then I think it's $59, I think, for if you do it early instead of like $200, that it has been in the past. So we've put a lot of money at it because we know that photographers have really, had a rough time. And also vendors have had a really rough time too. So we were able to offer a significant discount. I think it was like 50% off booth rentals for our vendors because we really wanted them to be able to have a good trade show because the vendors really suffered from this last year and a half as well. So we're doing what we can, to reinfuse the industry and make sure that everybody can still come and get their education and that the vendors,
as you're being introduced to
can
somebody,
still,
so
yeah.
the social aspect is there.
Am I hearing my own voice?
Somebody's got something social going
He
on.
was playing this conversation. No, wait, you were playing Get Your Shoot Together.
I don't know. What was that? What it was? Ken's laughing. Now you're muted again, Ken.
No, it was me. I thought I was muted.
Oh,
I'm guilty. I'm looking at you.
Joyce and tell it was her.
It was me, but I can say it was Ken with a straight face.
Sounds like you found the podcast.
Yes, I did.
Okay, good.
good. Well, and we have a new CPP liaison in our group. That's Cindy Wolf. So
cool.
She's here tonight, right? I thought I saw her.
There, she's glowing. It looks like she's got like
she's got beautiful lighting
on her or something. Oh, there we go. No, the glowing was good, Cindy. I liked it.
Where'd she go? I don't see. Oh, you know what? I'm not on gallery view.
It's her halo.
Yeah, it is.
I'm only on speaker
Tell
view.
us what the CPP liaison does, Cindy. On the spot. I'm putting you on the spot. Oh no,
you're muted.
We can't hear you. No, you're not muted. We just can't hear you. What's up with your sound?
There I go.
Oh, I'm on now. Can you hear me?
Yep. I can hear you now.
I just don't want you to hear dogs barking and television in the background.
Okay, we'll just
from the other room.
We'll just make
So a CPP liaison, and Kira, you probably know this better than I do since I just got approved.
Uh-oh, is she gonna
lagging?
Oh no, she's
people locally.
Uh-oh. Okay, I'm gonna mute her and then so Kira, we might need you
to become a CPP. So
it's like she's almost back.
Oh, poor Cindy. Okay. Cindy,
oh, there you are. You're almost like you just kept cutting out
because you froze up on us. We didn't get to hear that.
We didn't hear a thing you said.
Okay, let's see. Try it again.
Maybe if I talk slow.
Oh, use your sexy voice. Slow.
The CPP liaison helps people locally, is that right? Through the CPP process, finds those that are interested. I know Melanie is interested, and some other people have said they were interested. So it's helping other people going through the process and then proctoring the test if they take it locally.
And then CPP.
Does that make sense?
Don't know. A certified professional photographer through PPA.
Yes.
It's a course that we take and a test, and they ask you to take 100 questions?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, an hour test, 100 questions, submit 3 images according to a specified criteria. You learn a lot when you do it, and you get a lot of confidence when you pass.
Yes, it's very exciting.
It's very exciting, and you learn.
So I highly recommend it if you all are.
Oh no, she froze again.
How many times can you take the test?
I think you have a 3-year period. She's frozen, so I'll pick it up for her if that's okay. I think you have a 3-year period to continue to take the test. I don't think there's a number of times. I think it's like you can pretty much take a test any time now as long as you've got it proctored, and you can take them online now. Or she can host one, like if she's going to host one for your organization, that, you know, you guys can all take it at the same time and study. That's usually the best way. It's like if a group of people are trying to get it, like having a little local study group and then having her proctor the exam for everybody at the same time. It's just kind of a nice team effort to kind of learn it together. But I will say about the certification program is it's kind of designed to be like a, it's the foundational knowledge that we missed, because a lot of us, you know, we're not, I mean, I went to school for photography, but like I missed, they don't really teach it this way anymore, you know? And so there's all this like foundational stuff that's being missed because people are learning online and they're learning in different ways. And certification is so great because you don't know what you missed until you go and you go through the whole process. So it's less about validating what a good photographer you are. And it's more about getting all, like knowing everything about the foundation of photography and lighting and your camera and how to expose correctly and color harmonies, things like that. So to make you a better photographer. I think the misconception about it is that it's a stamp of like, this means that I am the most amazing photographer in the world, where it really is a way to become the better photographer, you know, in the long run. So it's incredibly beneficial. I thought I knew everything, and then I did that. And I was wrong. So I learned a lot. And you only have to get a 70 to pass the written exam. And nobody ever has to know what it is you made when you pass the written exam, as long as you pass it. It's not publicly posted or anything like that. So
Yeah, that was very well explained. Good, thank you. Because we need more CPPs in our San Diego group.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, it gives you a lot more confidence too, because you get in situations that, you know, with tricky lighting that you're having to battle, or hard things that you got to figure out, like, you know, the question earlier about like, why is my background why is there a variation in lighting with my background? Well, that's something you kind of probably, you know, could have learned and solved because you went through certification and you've done all this extra studying around things like that. So it's like a stopgap for things that, like, just gaps of things that you missed during your journey of like learning, you know?
Yep. So true. Yeah. And then you get to work with that cute little wood model.
Yeah. Sherman.
Sherman. Is that what you named him? Yeah. That was fun. And Cindy and I did it together, and we just had so much fun. Well, we have fun when we hang out anyway, but it was kind of fun to have a buddy. So I recommend people buddy up, and Cindy and I are here to help whoever wants to do it. We can guide you and encourage you, and Cindy can proctor your tests. So it's pretty exciting. My husband was the one that wanted me to do it, because when I became the director of West Coast School, we were looking at everybody on the PPC board, and he goes, what is a CPP? And they all have a master of photography, and they all have a CPP. And what are you?
He was like, where are your credentials?
Yeah, I go, I don't have any credentials. And he goes, oh, okay. So that's what kind of lit a fire. I'm like, well, I guess I need to get this so that I can have some credentials. If I'm going to be this director, I need to at least have, you know, if I'm going to be a leader in our community, I need to at least show that I'm doing the work too. So
well, that's great. That's great.
So yeah, I'm 5 exhibition merits away from my master's.
Well, that's not far at all. Did you enter district?
I did, and I have 4 sealed.
Ooh,
I know.
Don't break them.
Well, see, that's the big dilemma, because if
there's no dilemma, Michelle. Don't break them.
I only have 4 merits, it's going to take me 2 years.
No, because you're still up for loan review, or, you know, image excellence review. So if your images, if any one of them gets upvoted to image excellence, right, which is what it's called now instead of loan, but then that's the extra point that you need, and so you could get it this year. You need 5, right?
I do. I need 5.
If you break that seal,
I know. I had a long talk with Pete Rizak about it, and he was like, "Oh, I see what you're saying," because I just don't know if
We
they're
risk losing the merit.
yeah. So worst case scenario, it takes me 2 years. Best case scenario, I get it this year. So I have some decisions to make.
Well, it's not a race,
No,
you know? So, but I don't know. My advice, it's always to let it ride. If you don't have your master's yet, I know how bad you want it, but I would let it ride because you really do run the risk of losing the merit and then needing 2 more instead of just needing 1 more,
right?
you know?
That's not good.
I know.
A comment. Well, it's not. What do you mean it's not a race? I wanted yesterday. All of this, like all of these accomplishments, I wanted yesterday.
Well, first, step 1, join PPA,
I
Antoine.
know. I'm just saying, like generally speaking, like everything that I do in photography, I want it yesterday.
You want instant gratification. Yes. Well, it's a journey, not a race.
Yeah. No, I know.
It is. Yeah.
I do have FOMO. With the fact that I'm not part of PPA, but
Okay. Well, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it.
Well, and now aren't they giving? I think they're giving a discount too for your membership if you sign
Yeah.
up. Antoine, it's the time to do it because I think normal membership's around 320 something.
23.
They're
Yeah.
giving you 30,
A year.
you
It's a
know?
lot.
I think you go to imaging for free your first year too. Like, I mean,
Right.
I think like there's a lot of benefits when you for your first year. And I think your IPC case is covered too. I can't remember. It's either the first year or the second year your IPC case gets covered. So you don't have a case fee for entering the competition, which I
Okay.
very much want you to enter with your
Yeah,
imager.
Antoine, you have to enter. Those images are amazing. All your best in
Thank you.
shows. Antoine, we had 5 image competitions this year, and
Yeah.
Antoine made best in show for 3 of the 5. Like
I
that's
was there for one of them.
yes, sure. No one's done that before. It's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. That
And I wanted to say congratulations to you and your cover on the cover of the magazine. You have worked your butt off since you've gotten started in here, and you're really going at it with a vengeance. And I just really see you grow.
I'm hungry.
It's so fun to see people grow, and it's paying off for you. It's been great. Yeah.
Especially because, thank you. Especially because I didn't think I was ever going to do portraits. This was
Right.
not what I was interested in at all, as you all know, when I started at PPSDC. So it's still a surprise to me. But
Who would have
thank
thought it turned into a portrait guy? And so was taking Tim Meyer's class kind of a push to get you to do portraits, or what was?
So there was 2 things. I don't know if you remember, but like 2 years ago, Yannick did a little like a workshop in the studio at EQ Studios down in
Mission Gorge.
no, in Barrio Logan.
Mhm.
Do you guys remember that?
No, I missed
I
it.
remember when you did it, but I wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, I went and I was like, oh, okay, I can see how this is fun, but honestly, I was just, it's fun. And I did take Tim's class as on the scholarship. So everybody applied to the scholarship of West Coast School, and that's how I got interested in like doing portraits like more seriously.
Tim is great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have. Oh, that was the other thing I didn't talk about. Tim Meyer, I just booked him for a 2-day in-person class. We're gonna do it at Melanie's studio in the end of August, and he's gonna do a history of photography that he's never done before. It's he used to be a professor at Brooks College, and he teaches photography up at the community college up in Orange County. And so he's going to do a whole thing on the history of photography and the history of fashion photography, which is going to be really interesting.
Ooh,
That'll be cool.
I want that. I want in.
The rest of the afternoon, it's going to be a 2-day class. It's $299, which for Tim, that's a deal. Oh my goodness, such a deal. And it's going to include lunch. I mean, come on, free food, right? So we're going to do, we're going to have 3 shooting stations, and Melanie's styling the models. He's going to teach. So he said, this is more of a technique than a style, but we're going to do 1 dark skin model and 1 light skin model and see how do you light that? You know, how do you light that with strobes and get those two different people with completely different tones into one image? And then he's
Oh,
gonna, we're looking at like a marble man type of model, and the sexiest man alive, you know, with this tuxedo. We have a couple on a motorcycle. We're even looking into some cosplayers. So there'll be some stuff that you can shoot to put into your portfolio. And then Tim's going to dive deep into some more advanced lighting techniques and the Hollywood glamour. So that's going to be August 28th and 29th. And that is the San Diego class. So I'm about ready to post that one. That the signup should be ready by the end of the week. I'm just been working hard to try to get it.
And that's a West Coast school stuff, or is that what's
That's
that?
a West Coast school, and it also will be a PPA merit class too. So if you're working on a master's, that will be a merit class.
Are you going to limit that to like 10 people or 15 or?
15 people only.
Kira, you want to come?
I know, right? That'll be like right after Vegas.
Right. If it wasn't right after Vegas, it sounds like fun. I'd love to come out there at some point.
It's really fun. We would love to have you. So.
Sure. Well, I'm going to say goodnight, guys.
Yeah, I gotta go as well. My dogs are going crazy right now, so
Okay.
I need to go. I need to go investigate.
I'll keep us on for about 15 more minutes. Thanks, Antoine. Thank you, Kira. If you
Bye,
guys
guys.
stay in chat for 15, I have about 15 more minutes in me. There's Morgan.
I wanted, did Morgan, oh, he signed off. I wanted to.
No, Morgan's still here, but I don't want to talk to Morgan.
Where'd he go?
Where'd who go? Uh-oh.
Oh, there he is. So Morgan, are you doing, oh shoot, what was I gonna say? Commercial, are you still heading towards doing commercial and airplanes? Was one of your goals?
Yeah, I have been focusing only on the boys this.
Uh-huh.
It's,
So that's what you've
during
had
this
to
time.
do now. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I do have some practice sessions coming up. My neighbors are having some family in town. I'm like, well, I'll shoot some practice with them, but nothing commercial, or since everything's been shut down, I haven't gone anywhere to do anything. So
yeah.
But I'm excited for once things start opening up. Maybe the air show starts happening again, and I don't know. Yeah, I would like to maybe
see you. I miss you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I miss seeing all you guys. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's been
It is
tough.
so fun. Yeah.
I noticed, you know, I've really watched you grow in image comp, and I really, you and I are going to have to message, because the one image that you had really good feedback on at image comp last time, I would love to talk to you about that.
Which image was that?
Was it the girl in the pink, or it was a
Oh yeah.
portrait?
That's my sister.
Okay, that is amazing, and that one's going somewhere, and I could totally see. I think you just need a few more tweaks on that one, but I love that you brought it back. I was really proud of you for bringing it back, and I want to see you bring it back.
I'm trying to picture it. Who is it? A young girl or?
Yeah, it's a young girl, and she's kind of looking up. She looks very cherub-like, I think, in the picture.
You said she was in pink.
Art, and your styling is beautiful, and your lighting. I just think it needs a couple tweaks. So
thank you. Yeah, I need to practice. I need a lot of practice. So I appreciate feedback as much as you're willing to give me.
Yeah, you're getting there. Well, what about you, Paul? What's going on with you? Have you you've been entering our image comp and doing stuff? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm still trying to find my voice. You know, I last photo competition I entered architecture. I think I managed to win best in class because there was only one or two pictures in there. But yeah, my thing is really animals and wildlife and landscape. I am trying to do some portrait, but you know, the hardest thing in getting into portrait or headshots is finding people, especially family and friends that are willing to sit down and help you out. I mean, they're just
now it's tough.
Yeah.
So I bought some heads with wigs, and I'm practicing with
for you
and trying that out. But
the
problem is they don't have wrinkles or anything to really work on. You know, it's just like flat faces and.
But it's best practice for lighting patterns for sure.
Yeah. Just
really good for lighting.
Get out a magic mark up their face with the permanent mark. Got some lines all over.
All right.
Yeah.
I
I
have
even
a
put
couple of those.
eyelashes on them so that I could see the shadows.
Oh, that's smart. Okay, that's totally smart. The part that I get irked about is the catch lights. You can't get catch lights in their eyes. And I
Oh.
totally got tripped out because I have this one mannequin, Vicky, and I looked at her and I went, oh, that lighting looks good, those catch lights. And then I had to remember to tell myself those are painted in catch lights.
Oh,
So one thing I was interested in, what you mentioned earlier is getting some sort of certification, because I'm just starting out really. I mean, I've been taking pictures, but not really professionally. So I'm really interested in trying to do this certification program that you mentioned with PPA.
So
So
are you a PPA member?
no, but I mean, I could get started and all that.
I would
If it's going to lead something.
Yeah, because my experience, and I don't know, Cindy has taken some college courses, but I'm all self-taught. I have since been, the school of YouTube, and then I ended up finding West Coast School and finding teachers to teach me in person. But I can say from personal experience that certified professional photographer exam
That was good.
really gave me a foundation, because there was so much, like what she just said tonight, what Kira said, there's so much stuff you skip that you don't know because we didn't go to college for this. And in college,
Well, but let me ask you, so you work towards that certification, you're going to have the test and you have content that you have to learn. Are they offering courses as part of that? Or
Yeah,
you're still
that's the
getting it
thing.
on your own?
they have a lot of material through PPA. They have a book list. They do have videos through PPA that you can watch that are free.
Once you sign up for the certification,
Yes, yes.
or if you're a member.
And then you can go to YouTube. Know what Violet and I did. Cindy did all the free material and she did fabulous. I needed a little bit more of someone to hold my hand and give me clear videos. So, and Violet did the same thing. Violet in our group, we ended up purchasing Chris Duncan's CPP course. It wasn't cheap. It was $500, but I have access to it for life. And it literally walked me through everything. He did lighting scenarios. He did,
Oh.
it was fabulous. And so I have all that to refer to, but I'm very much a visual learner. I can read it in a book and I have a harder time comprehending what I've written. I need somebody to act it out for me and I need to see it. And his was the fast track. Their PPA does have really great videos. They're a little bit older and I just felt like I was spending a little bit more. So for me, it was worth to pay the money. But if you don't have the means and you don't want to pay for that, you can still do it through the books. Roberto Valenzuela's book, Picture Perfect Lighting.
I like him.
That is one on the book list. And I have read that cover to cover 3 times because he is fantastic with his inverse square light. Oh gosh, so many things that like teaching you how to, what was the hyperfocal, what is the hyperfocal distance of infinity? Do you remember that, Cindy? I'm like, oh, I know what the hyperfocal distance of infinity is. Like, whoever needs to know that? But you know what it's for? Like, if you have a group of 100 people that you're shooting in a gym.
You cut out.
You cut out, Michelle.
Okay, so the hyperfocal distance
of infinity, then you cut out.
Okay, so you would think you'd never need that. No, you do. Because if you're shooting a large group of like 100 students for a yearbook and you have them all in the gym and you need to light them and you need to know the distance from, what's your focal plane, all that kind of thing, it teaches you that. And so I went, oh my goodness, I could totally use that when you think you never would.
Right.
And then Nancy was asking questions in the chat tonight about lighting the backdrop to make it white and then to make it gray and then to make it black. All those kind of things you learn through this certification process that I didn't know before. And like, what's the 3:1 ratio? What's a 2:1 ratio? How do you meter? Why do you need to meter? Some photographers meter, some photographers don't. The size of your softbox, like just little things like if your softbox is 24 inches, then the rule is you should be 24 inches from your subject. Just little things like that sticks with you.
Yeah.
So I would
That's
say
from the Chris Duncan
Chris
thing.
Duncan. he's formulated his class to go exactly how the test goes, because the test is broken up into sections.
And he talks about all that.
He goes
Sure.
every single section. There's a lighting section. There's even a section on gamma and banding and bandwidth and data, like, you know, what's the difference between a megabyte and a bit, and
It'd be
Color
nice
theory.
if we had a library, like a resource, and we could check out the materials where everybody wouldn't have to buy it.
Well, that's, PPA has that. They have a lot of videos. Once you're a member, their online library is quite large. They also have a wonderful asset that I put into my phone, and it was flashcards.
oh yeah, the flashcards were
The
really
flashcards were fabulous. You read the question, you get the answer, and you just keep grinding on it. And then back to Roberto's book. Roberto carried a teddy bear in his car everywhere he went. Wherever he went, he would get out, put the teddy bear for posing, and run a lighting pattern on it. So, you know, if you think about, where do I have to wait? Do I have to wait at school? Do I have to wait at the doctor's office? Do I have to wait at the dentist? Awesome. Take a camera, take a light, take a teddy bear, go outside and figure it out.
So is it mostly technical? Do they get into post-processing stuff they want you to know too?
yes.
Yep.
Yep, they want you to know all kinds of stuff, a little bit of everything to be well-rounded.
Right. But
Yeah.
really what they're really solidifying is foundation. And then, you know, the whole purpose of the masters and the craftsman and all of the degrees is, the more you learn, right, you're building towards degrees, which is also credibility.
And
Even in
confidence, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a practice test on the PPA website also.
Oh yeah.
Get on there and take it and see how you do.
Also, UCSD Extension has classes for photography. I got my first CPP there.
They still do? I didn't know they still did that.
They're online.
Okay.
There's one man in particular, Oreste Prada. He's a HP vice president in charge of the scientists that create the ink for HB printers. And so he has classes in color theory and printing. So I took his printing classes and they were fabulous. But we also had tests, right? We had to sit down with a box of paper and determine what kind of paper it is, what are we going to print on it? What is the configuration? What is the color profile, et cetera, et cetera. So you get the comprehensive education while you're printing your own stuff.
Yeah, pretty neat. Oh, I'm still recording all this, so this is good. I'm gonna end.
Oh, I thought that was off. Okay.
I'm gonna end my recording, but we didn't say anything good. I mean, we didn't talk about anybody.
Did we talk about Ken? Ken's gone, right? We can talk about him.
No,
He's a good one to make fun of.
that was so cool that he did college. He went to college with Mary Fish Taylor.
Wow.
I gotta run.
Good night. Yeah, I gotta
Paul.
my
Let us
little
know if you
guy.
have any more questions, Paul.